everyone, and welcome to my Agatha All Along reading vlog. It is currently the time of Agatha All Along. The first 2 episodes have aired, and now it is time to read some comics and take you along with me, as I do with every single new Marvel show or film. So how this vlog is going to work is that I'm going to be watching every episode each week and then telling you about what I think about it, the thoughts I have, the theories, all the rest of it, and then I'm going to be reading a load of comics to do with Agatha and the rest of the characters. So what we're going to do today to start off with is chat a little bit about episode 1 and 2 and then get into some comics. As for what I loved about each episode, and by the way, this is going to contain spoilers, but I'll obviously leave timestamps here so you can skip over into the spoiler-free section, or just the comic reading section, I should say, if you do not want to know anything about the show because you haven't seen it yet. And quite frankly, why are you watching this if you haven't seen the show yet? Go watch the show. Anyway, what I loved about episode 1 specifically was that kind of detective show vibe. I really enjoyed that. I really liked that it was kind of like a crossover from WandaVision, which was obviously all based around sitcoms, but this time it was more like detective type vibes. I really enjoyed that. I really liked starting to unravel a bit of the mystery and then being introduced to all of our characters. Obviously we know the Westview people because they were in WandaVision, so it was nice to see them in their kind of real lives. That was really fun. I'm really interested in the mystery of who Rio Vidal is, and then also the teen. I do have theories on both of them. Specifically for teen, I am definitely convinced that Joe Locke is playing Billy, aka Wanda's son, you know, the one with the with the magic powers. I definitely think that's going to be him. I've thought that ever since he was announced as a cast member of the MCU. I've thought, Billy, you were definitely Billy, so I'm definitely still heading down that route at the moment. I definitely think he's going to turn out to be Billy. If I am wrong, I will be shocked, quite frankly, but there we go. I definitely think he's going to be Billy. In terms of Aubrey Plaza, she's most likely going to turn out to be like the Emerald Warlock or someone like this, because she's very much like green and nature magic and things like this, which is what they keep on talking about. There is a chance she could be a character called Blackheart as well, because she is described as having a black heart and things like this, so it could be that. But in the back of my mind, I'm going, what if she's the Shadow King? And she's definitely not the Shadow King. I 100% know she's not going to be the Shadow King, but my brain keeps on saying, but what if she is? Because Aubrey Plaza as an actress turned up in a show called Legion 5-6 years ago now. It was a very long time ago anyway, and she played a character in that called Lenny, who was David Legion's best friend, and she got taken over and controlled by the Shadow King. And I'm suddenly like what if Aubrey Plaza's character in this is going to turn out to be a variant on that character, and she's going to turn out to be the Shadow King? And that is definitely not happening. I 100% know that is not happening, and yet my brain's going, but what if it is? And it's not. But you know how it is, your brain just goes there, especially with something like the Multiverse Saga, where there are variants of everybody. The mutant saga is coming in, the mutants are turning up, multiverse stuff is happening. My brain just went, but what if she's the Shadow King and there's a Legion crossover? Because obviously also a few months ago I did have that overwhelming urge to rewatch Legion, and I don't know if it's just that, it's still in the back of my head ticking away. But anyway, I have that theory. It's not going to turn out to be true, but I'm putting it out here now just in case it is, so I can like refer back to this and be like, hey look, I was right. I'm definitely not. But anyway, I've got my theories about that. I'm very excited to see more from her, because I'm very excited to see who she is and what her connection is to Agatha, all of this kind of thing. Very excited about that. I'm really excited to see who the rest of the Covenant are as well and find out more about them, this kind of thing. And overall, I really enjoyed episode 1 and 2. In terms of episode 2 as well, I really thought the the Seven Sisters of Salem were terrifying. I really like that we are going straight out the gate with the scary things like this. That's really fun as well. I'm really excited just generally to see where this is going to go, and now we're on the Witch's Road. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen, who's going to show up, like what we're going to find out about these characters, what's going to happen on the Witch's Road, all of this kind of thing. I'm so excited about this. This show is definitely like going to be a good one. I can feel it. I mean, all Marvel shows are good ones, so I'm always here for them anyway, but this one, definitely very excited about. And now I've talked about a little bit about my theories and stuff, I've now also written my blog post for the day, so now it is time to read some comics. And my one problem with this reading vlog is that Agatha doesn't have any solo comics, or she does, but she doesn't have that many of them. They're very, very recent at the moment. There's House of Harkness, and there's also technically Contest of Chaos, which she kind of orchestrated in a way where she's just battling everybody against each other. I've got a few things where she is like a guest star, so like where she was working with the Daughters of Liberty in a Captain America run. There is also the original 1961 Fantastic Four that I could read. A few other bits from like the early 2000s and stuff, but there isn't that much. So what this is going to be more is more like wherever Agatha shows up, essentially, because I've obviously got like Strange Academy where she's one of the tutors and things like this, so I'm kind of going to be jumping about wherever Agatha turns up in a comic. And then obviously when Billy is inevitably revealed, because let's be honest, he's definitely Billy, that there's too many clues towards him being Billy at the moment, and that's just from the marketing of this. I will probably almost certainly be reading stuff about Billy as well when he's revealed. Stuff about whoever Aubrey Plaza actually is, I'll be reading about them as well. But right now, I think I'm going to start with maybe some Scarlet Witch from 1994, because if I remember rightly, that is where Agatha first starts being a mentor to Scarlet Witch. So that is where I'm going to start, because I'm not going to lie, I am avoiding the 1961 Fantastic Four, because I'm not a fan of anything from like before 1990. I won't lie, it hasn't aged well in a lot of cases, so I'm kind of avoiding that for as long as possible, and I'm going to go for the more slightly modern stuff. So I think I'm going to start with Scarlet Witch 1994 and go from there. So yeah, I'm going to get started there and see what I think about it, take you along with me, and you'll slowly see me throughout this reading vlog struggling to find things to read, because there ain't that much. So prepare to watch me struggle on this one, I won't lie, because Agatha needs more comics, but we shall make do. We shall see what happens, and there's going to be a lot of reading. There's going to be a lot of witchy reading and a lot of spooky reading and a lot of magician reading and things like this for this vlog, I think. So I'm going to get going on it. You know how I was saying stuff from like the 80s, like the 60s through the 80s hasn't aged well? Yeah, also women's outfits in the 90s haven't aged well either. This is why I don't read anything usually from before 2000 if I can, because there's a lot of sexist outfits and outdated like language and things like this, and I'm not usually here for it. So I understand that this is of its time, but it doesn't mean it's enjoyable to look at. So that's the thing that I just wanted to point out. If you do want to read this, be prepared. There is a lot of sexist outfits here. I thought I'd read this before, and I have. I read this back when WandaVision was airing, and I've just remembered there's also a scene that is completely unnecessary of Spider-Woman in the shower. Like, you don't see anything. You see her like shoulders upwards, but it's like, that doesn't need to be there whatsoever. Why is it here? So I just wanted to point that out. There's a few sexist moments with women in revealing clothing and all the rest of it that just does not need to be there, but that is just the 90s for you, or 1991 I should say. So 1991? Anyway, early 90s for you. Anyway, this is all about Wanda, and she is having these weird dreams and things like this where this guy is like trying to get her and things like this, and now demons have attacked the West Coast Avengers mansion, which is where she is at the moment, and she's now off looking for answers with Agatha, and now everyone's being attacked by demons. So the actual storyline is there, but it's got that proper 90s cheesy factor to it, which I find with most comics like from this era and beforehand, they're very cheesy in a lot of ways and quite overwritten in a lot of ways as well, in terms of everyone like talking and things like this. It's all very, very overwritten, but the actual storyline is good. I could just do with maybe a little bit less overwriting and a whole lot less sexism. I've just finished it, and overall this is getting a 2 stars, following the tradition of the first comic I read for any vlog is not my favourite, but this one was very sexist, very overwritten, very overly dramatic and not really explained much, and it was just alright. This was dealing a lot more with Wanda than it was Agatha, so if you're looking for an Agatha story, this isn't it, because this is definitely more focusing on Wanda and Nexus beings and things like this. So if you want to know what a Nexus being is, this is where the first explanation comes into it, so it's good in that sense. But yeah, this was not my favourite, like, at all. I think I'm going to try and find something more modern now, because this really didn't work for me that well. So fingers crossed the stuff from like the early 2000s through to now are going to be a lot better for me, because otherwise this vlog is going to get quite negative. I've gone on to Witches from 2004 because I was going to read Marvel Knights, which involves Agatha, but then I went, wait a minute, that actually involves A, the Salem 7, who are definitely turning up again in later episodes of Agatha all along, and 2, it's also counting in, or did I say A? Either way, secondly, it's also dealing with the resurrection of Nicholas Scratch, judging by the sort of comp title on this, so I've decided to leave that, considering we're probably going to see Nicholas Scratch later on, because we've already had a massive hint at him in the first episode, so I'm going to leave that for then. Right now, I'm going to read Witches instead, because this actually features Jennifer Kale, who is one of the witches we see within the Coven, so I'm probably going to have to do a post on her pretty soon, so get some research in early. But what I wanted to say first was that I'm only on the first page of this, and look at the artwork around the panels. Like, I know the panels are also quite nice, but look at this artwork around the panels. I really wish more comics would do stuff like this, because this looks absolutely gorgeous. I want more of this kind of thing in my comics, because I love this. I love it so much. It looks so good. So this is going down the very stereotypical 2004 level sort of feminism type thing. Yeah, in the sense that Stephen is just sending these witches off to try and solve the problem, because a beast has come out of a magical book and is essentially going around knocking out a whole bunch of sorcerers, which is obviously a bad thing. And he's just sending in these women instead who don't know each other, do not get along with each other, and don't know what they're doing. And yeah, they're doing that whole I'm a strong woman, I don't need a man to tell me what to do kind of thing, but there's also a ton of girl hate in here for no apparent reason. Everyone is just really, really sort of sexistly as well, or at least if you're a woman, you're dressed basically very, very revealingly, whereas all of the men are very covered up. And I mean, Stephen's cloak seems to go on for ages. Like, there's just loads of it for no apparent reason. And also Wong is very much a manservant in this as well. And I know that Wong didn't start to get a character change until more recent years, but that's also horrendously, like, racist. You know, it's really quite racist with the subservient Asian guy to the white guy kind of thing. So I'm just a bit like, this hasn't aged well. Like, the storyline is great in the sense you've got this demon going around hunting all the sorcerers and like taking down all the witches and stuff like this, and you've got a group of women who need to team up together, one from like sort of heavenly aspects, one from hell and one from earthly planes, all teaming up together to try and stop it. But yeah, there's a lot of sexism involved in this, and I mean a lot of sexism, so I'm a bit like, that's not exactly good. And also, why can't Stephen help? Like, he's supposed to be ill for some apparent reason, but I'm just like, couldn't they have just done this by themselves, or couldn't they have gotten like Agatha or someone in? Because if you're gonna go down the proper like girl power route, then surely having a woman in charge, getting them all together and helping them sort all of this out would have been a better idea. But there we go. Anyway, this hasn't aged well. That's what I'm getting at. This really, really hasn't aged well either. Yeah, that very much was just alright. I think it would have been better if A, it had been written by a woman, and B, if it had been, say, Agatha instead of Stephen, because Stephen is not painted in a good light in this, and Stephen is not usually, I was about to say that sexist, he was, essentially, but it was more in the sense that, like, I mean, he was always sexist, yeah, but in a slightly different way, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, he's a lot better now, as everyone is in the comics now. Like, we've moved on, thank God, in the last 20 years, but yeah, that didn't work for me. That really didn't work for me. This is not going well. And I've now run out of time to read anything else today, so that's great, but I'm hoping some of the later stuff is going to work for me. It's going to be less sexist. I mean, I know I enjoy Strange Academy. I know I liked the original Witch's Road comic fairly enough, so I'm going to read that one again as well, because obviously this is the Witch's Road. I'm obviously going to read the comic set of the Witch's Road. I've heard amazing things about Contest of Chaos, things like this. I know I've got a few things about Billy that I could read as well when he's announced, so yeah, I've got options. it just didn't go that well to start with. But this is what always happens. It always happens every single year where I start a new thing, like a new vlog with one of the Marvel properties, and every single time, or at least 90% of the time, the first day is a bit bad in terms of what I'm reading, because I'm usually reading the older stuff and it's just always sexist, so, or racist, or a combination of. So yeah, not the greatest start in the world, but I mean, watching Agatha itself more than made up for it, and I know I'm going to enjoy the other stuff because I've heard amazing things, or I have already read it and it is a reread, so I'm probably going to enjoy that stuff a lot more. So this vlog is going to look up next week, I promise, but right now I'm going to leave it here because there's nothing really else I can read, and I am trying to stretch this out over the next 7 weeks, so there we go. Anyway, this was not my best start, but I mean, I have read worse, so it's not the most horrendous start in the world, but it wasn't my favourite start in the world either, but it'll do. It's a start. It's onwards and upwards from here, and I mean, the show is incredible anyway, so I've still had some fun with Agatha today anyway, so it's absolutely fine. But now I'm going to go do something else, try and get my memory card also emptied a bit, because it's got about 6 minutes left of footage space on it left, so I'm going to go sort that out, and I'll be back next week with hopefully some better Agatha comics. I've now just finished episode 3, and I've also written my blog post for today, which was about the first 3 episodes and all of the Easter eggs in there. So my thoughts on today's episode is that I really enjoyed it. I really like seeing more of the Witch's Road and seeing what the kind of things that are going to happen on the Witch's Road, this kind of thing. I really like that. I really like the first trial and seeing a bit more of the potions magic with Jennifer Kale, and sort of getting slight hints of all of these characters and their backstories and stuff. That's really interesting. I'm starting to think that everything Lilia says, who is the witch played by Patti LuPone, I do think maybe somehow this is all going to, like every one of her outbursts that she said that don't quite fit in with the rest of the episode, I do think maybe it's going to be her maybe seeing maybe like the finale or something, and everything she said is all going to come back in the finale, and it's all going to be things to do with that. I don't know, but that is my current theory on that one. But I really like seeing the hints to all of these characters and their past and things like this, and seeing them work some magic was absolutely fantastic. I also really liked learning a little bit more about Nicholas Scratch and saying that Agatha sacrificed her son for the Darkhold, and I do think there's going to be a further twist with that. I do not think it's going to turn out that Agatha just did that for the Darkhold. I do think there's a little bit more to that. Maybe somebody else sacrificed Nicholas for the Darkhold, and Agatha took the book to try and maybe get him back again, just like Wanda did with the twins. So I do think maybe that's going to happen. I would be starting to steer down the idea of maybe Joe Locke's teen being Nicholas Scratch, but unfortunately Funko have just completely ruined who he is and spoiled it, along with who Aubrey Plaza is, because they've released on Smith's Toys and things like this, like not exactly the pre-orders, but like coming up soon kind of thing for Pops, and they just showed Aubrey Plaza's character with the character name underneath and Wiccan, and it's clearly Billy with the eyebrow slit and the costume. And am I going to say who Aubrey Plaza is? I mean, yes, because this is coming out after the show's aired, so she's playing Death. So that is a really interesting twist that I did not see coming. I was completely convinced for a while that she was going to be playing Blackheart, because every time they've mentioned her, she's mentioned having a black heart, and Mephisto has a son in the comic called Blackheart, so I was thinking, oh yeah, she's going to be Blackheart, but turns out she's Death. So I'm like, well, that's an interesting turn up for the books, considering Death is more sort of involved with like Deadpool, because her and Deadpool were lovers for a while in the comics. She was one of his first comic book loves, and then also Thanos loved her, and if I remember rightly, he did the whole snap in the comics simply to impress her, if I remember rightly. So it's interesting that she's turned up now, and I'm like, does this mean she's going to resurrect Wanda? Not that I believe Wanda is dead, but is she going to resurrect someone like Wanda at the end of this, at the end of the Witch's Road? I don't know. So interesting on that one. Slightly annoyed that Funko did spoil that for us, because I was going to be really happy to just try and figure it out for a while longer. I mean, obviously I knew that Joe Locke was Billy, like I 100% knew that, so even with this slight detour of possibly is he Nicholas Scratch, I'm still like, no, that's Billy. That's Wiccan. I've thought it the whole way through ever since he was actually announced. I've gone, that's Billy. So, yeah, I'm slightly annoyed that they haven't got a Romani actor in to play Billy, because that is his, ethnicity in the comics. So I do wish they'd done that, and I do wish they had also hired a Jewish actor, but there we go. Apparently whitewashing is still happening, which is very annoying, but... Anyway, I still called that Joe Locke was going to be playing Billy, so it's nice to have the confirmation like 6 weeks early, but there we go. What else was I going to say about this episode? Yeah, I really like the practical effects again. I really like how they are really going for it with the practical effects, and you can tell that everything is done practically. I really, really like that. I really like seeing more of the mysteries unravel about these characters. But at the same time, I'm really sad that Mrs. Hart is dead. I'm like, why did we have to kill Mrs. Hart? Did we have to kill Mrs. Hart? I'm just thinking, like, she was the comedic relief in this. Did we have to kill her? In some ways, though, I am wondering if she is actually dead. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm kind of sad that she is supposedly gone at this point. So a bit sad about that. But this episode itself was absolutely brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it. And then as for what I'm going to be reading today, I have got 4 comics that I'm going to start, and that is the Strange Academy series by Scotty Young, because while this isn't about Agatha specifically, this is actually about the young magic users of the Marvel Universe going to essentially the Strange Academy in New Orleans, which is kind of like the Xavier School for mutants, but instead it's for magic users. But I really, really enjoyed this series when I read it the first time around, and seeing as last week I did not have the greatest reading experience with the comics I read, I wanted to read something that I knew that I'd really enjoy, and it was going to be filled with magic and everything else, so that is what we're going for today. So I'm going to be starting with First Class, obviously, then going through Brightside, then Witchcraft, and then Finals. I don't know if I'm going to get through all 4 of these today, but I'm going to give it a damn good shot, and anyway, that is what I'm going to be reading. What I love is that this comic is immediately steeped in magic. So Emily, who is our main character, has discovered that she can do magic and things like this. So she's now gone to Doctor Strange for help, and his friend Zelma, who is a librarian, ends up picking her up and taking her to New Orleans. And she's already met with a fairy. I don't know if you see that, but there we go. Fairy, and we've actually just had our first mention of fairies in the MCU, with Jennifer asking Sharon if she can hear the sound of crying fairies. So I'm kind of counting this, saying that this is tied into the actual episode, but there we go. Then we've had a couple of Asgardians, and then a frost giant, and then Loki. And I'm just like, oh yeah, this is steeped in magic already, because you've already got Asgardians trying to fight frost giants and Loki going, excuse me, is that how you treat one of my subjects? Because Loki is the king of the frost giants at this point. So yeah, there's a whole load of various different magical characters, and then also Doyle Dormammu, who is the son of Dormammu. So, you know, there's a lot of various magic users here, and actually on the other page, Brother Voodoo. So, like I said, this is absolutely steeped in magic. If you are looking for magical stuff to read to do with the Marvel Universe, this is the way to go. I wouldn't say you need specific knowledge of any of these characters either, because all of the students are brand new and created for this comic specifically, and then all of the teachers kind of jump in and out of them, so you can kind of find out more about them as you're reading, to be honest. So if you are completely brand new to Marvel Comics and you do want a good place to start, maybe try Strange Academy, because definitely a good one, and I definitely really enjoy myself, and at the moment, if I remember rightly, it is a pretty good one to start with if you are completely new. First of all, I also love the lineup of teachers. So we've got Doctor Strange here, who occasionally pops up. We've also got Nico, who is from the Runaways. We've got the Ancient One at the back here, the Mindful One. We've also got Ileana and Scarlet Witch, who are 2 of my favourite characters of all time, and also Dr. Voodoo. And then on the other side here, it actually has an application form that you can fill in at the time, and you can send it off, and it could be printed at the end of the next comic. And I just think that's really fun, and it's got things in here like your first experience with magic, your greatest weakness, a notable magical feat, and then if Dormammu is levitating a quarter 30 centimetres above your desk and you cast a deflection spell correctly, how many rabbits would appear? It's just, I love the absolute randomness of it, and I'm going to be talking about this forever, but I do genuinely absolutely love this comic. It is one of my favourites, and just filled with that kind of Scotty Young madness that I really, really enjoy. I don't know if you can hear that, but it is chucking it down with rain outside. Like, perfect weather for reading about magical things and watching shows about witches, but perfect timing on the weather. Absolute perfect timing on the weather for today. I really love how the opening your third eye looks and what's actually there kind of thing. I really love how all of this is drawn. It actually looks very much like the Way of Weird comic, I think it is. Is it the Way of Weird? It's one of those comics. It's a Doctor Strange one anyway, and you actually see what he sees when he's opened his third eye, which is what Emily is seeing right now, and I absolutely love the artwork on this. It's done by Humberto Ramos. I apologise right now if I've mispronounced that, but it's not actually done by Scotty Young. There's no, like, examples of Scotty Young's work in here, but, like, usually Scotty Young would draw his stuff as well, but unfortunately, because he was working on so many things and so many covers and everything else, he just did not have time to also, like, draw this one, and I think it's actually for the best, because I think Ramos' style works a lot better for this comic in general. Not to say that I wouldn't have loved to have seen Scotty Young's take on it, but I just think the artwork in here is absolutely brilliant anyway, and I do think the artist absolutely nailed it. And I mean, I know I keep on showing this, but I absolutely love this so much. It looks so good. Finally found a bit of Scotty Young's artwork. So this is what Scotty Young's artwork looks like, and yeah, I don't think this would have worked quite as well for the whole comic, but I do love his interpretations of the characters. Also, on this side of things, we actually have Wanda's email inbox, and on this inbox she's got obviously a whole load of like reports coming through from all the various students, but then she's also got Carol Danvers here saying, A-Force assemble, Wanda, we locked down a date for a girls' night and you better not, and then it cuts off because obviously it's just a little bit of the email. And then like Pietro is also messaging her saying, Wanda, give me a call immediately and don't dawdle, and it's like all one word. Then Steve is going like, hey, it's the annual Avengers meeting, you're a reserve member of the Avengers, can you come over and see us? You've got Hank McCoy saying like, Hank, I know, saying, Wanda, you're not technically a mutant, but I'd love to see you try a Krakoan gate. And then also Magneto is going, Wanda, I know I may not be your actual father, but I'd still love to catch up with you and Pietro. And I just love that they've added this little bit in here as well, because it was all leading towards the death of Scarlet Witch and the trial of Magneto, which was in the Krakoan era. And I mean, you don't have to know that to read this whatsoever, but it's a nice sort of little sort of lead into her actually being on Krakoa and actually dying. She didn't actually die, but you know, she died technically, and the trial of Magneto and all the rest of it. And I do like that they are actually covering as well that Magneto is still viewing her as his daughter, and him and like her and Pietro as his children, because while he didn't actually like create them, he's not their biological father or anything, for a very long time he did think that he was their father and they thought he was their dad, essentially. So I really like that they've actually added that little bit in here, in that sort of like, he still wants to be in their lives, he still wants to be a kind of father figure in a way, and I just really like that they added that in here. It's just a nice sort of little subtle thing that sort of really works for people who know a lot about comics, but even if you don't, it's still like a fun thing to sort of build up the characters and stuff and their lives that they have outside of the Strange Academy, and I just really like it as a detail. And I'm now on volume 2. And here's Agatha. So, I was right, Agatha does show up. She's not, like, one of the main characters or anything, but she does show up to teach a couple of classes. So, I thought she turned up. Glad to be, like, correct on that. I've read the first 3 and I've just realised I haven't really updated you on what I've thought about these. So I really enjoy the series because I really like following all of the different teenagers in here, finding out more about them and seeing them all sort of make friends with each other and making enemies of each other in a few places as well, because obviously they are teenagers. Some of them are very ignorant in some ways and all the rest of it, especially towards Doyle, who is the guy on fire here, because he is the son of Dormammu, so that comes with a whole load of preconceived notions about him, because obviously his father is Dormammu, the basically the ruler of the dark dimension, you know, the guy from Doctor Strange, like the big bad guy from Doctor Strange, Dormammu, I've come to bargain, that guy. And so it's really interesting to see that and see like the prophecies surrounding that and all of this kind of thing. I really do wish in a lot of ways we got a little bit more of their teaching, because I find all of that really fascinating, and I would have loved to have seen more of the various magic users of the Marvel Universe that we know and love actually teaching these kids magic, but to be honest, I don't really mind that much because we are focusing a lot more on the students and what's happening to them and things like this, and seeing how they react to the adults in the situation, really making a lot of mistakes with them and things like this. So all of that is really, really interesting, really fun. I won't go into anything specific because obviously that's going to be spoilers, but I do really like how it's exploring prophecy and all of this kind of thing is really interesting, really fun, and I'm giving all of these 4 stars. And now I've only got the final one left, which is Finals, which got a slight bend in the top part of, top corner of it, which I'm not entirely happy with, but there we go. Either way, really excited to finally finish off this series. This is the first time I've gone all the way through in one great big go, and I'm enjoying this so much. So I'm going to finish off this volume, which I think is a little bit shorter than the others. Not really, but either way, I'm going to very quickly finish this and tell you what I think about it as a series. One thing I absolutely love about this, again, is one of these sort of like little notices on the Strange Academy thing, and this one's all about extracurriculars. And right at the bottom here, I'm just going to read it out. It says, "Please note that the student-run Morbius fan club is not an official school-sanctioned club and will not count towards any extracurricular requirements you may have." And there's just a little sort of note underneath saying, "We just think he's neat," and you could tell this was done around the time Morbius the movie came out and it became like a massive meme, and I love they put that in there. I just think that's, well, neat, to be honest. I just think that's really neat. That's really fun. I love that Scotty Young put that in there. And now I've just finished the entire Strange Academy run by Scotty Young, and this did wrap up a little bit quickly, I will say. Not everything gets answered within this one, and I kind of wish that it had done, but I mean, it is comics, and a lot of the time these things do have to be cut a little bit short because authors have to go on to something else or whatever happens. And I do know that Scotty Young did leave this to go do maybe I Hate Fairyland or something else. Anyway, he's got a lot of comic projects, so things did wrap up a little bit quickly, but it's still a reasonably satisfying ending, and it does continue on. This title does continue on under a different author's name, which I have now forgotten, but I do know that there are a few more in this series, so if you want to carry it on, you still can. And in terms of whether or not the entirety of Strange Academy by Scotty Young is a good one to read if you are new to Marvel Comics, I'd say yeah, probably, because while you do find out a bit, or at least it ties in a little bit to things like the death of Doctor Strange, and you get all of these different magic users coming in and being like the headmaster and the various teachers and things like this, you don't really need to know that much about them to read this, because you are mainly focusing on the students who are brand new characters for this. I mean, it would probably help if you knew a little bit about Dormammu, and if you knew maybe a little bit about, well, Doctor Strange as well. Brother Voodoo would also probably help, to be fair, but everyone else you could probably get away with not really knowing that much about them, because you just really need to know that Professor Ileana, aka Magic, has a like connection to Limbo. You may need to know, I think that's about it, to be fair, because you don't really hear that much about Nico or Hellstrom or like Man-Thing or anybody else. You just kind of meet these characters very, very briefly, and then you sort of carry on with the story. So yeah, I think maybe if you have a little bit of knowledge of Dormammu, Doctor Strange and Brother Voodoo, and you can just read these, and to be honest, you could probably get that just from like reading the comics, like from watching the films, I mean, actually. So as long as you've seen the MCU, you should be fine reading these. These are quite fun. They are very sort of middle grade, sort of high school stories in a lot of ways, just set in a magic like school and things like this, and these were fun. I do think these are quite pretty fun. It's just the fact that this final one does wrap up a little bit quickly, but sometimes that happens with comics. So if you are looking for a reasonably easy way to start with Marvel Comics and you're not entirely sure where to start, but you know you like the magic section of the universe, try out Strange Academy. And now that's done with, so I'm not going to be reading any more this week. Next week it's probably going to be a shorter section on this, because I'm going to Elmot Nichols' book launch party next week, which is incredible, and that is on the 3rd of October, which is next Thursday, and then the Thursday after that it's my second McFly gig, so I will have been to a McFly gig the day before and then I'm going again the next day. So there's probably not going to be that much in terms of reading over the next 2 episodes, which I guarantee that's where Billy's going to be announced and all the rest of it, but we shall see. But yeah, so if there is a bit of a gap between now and the next clip, as in I sort of skip 2 episodes or just give you a brief overview with no actual comic reading or anything, then just know I was having a lot of fun doing a lot of other things at gigs and book launches and all of this kind of thing, and yeah. Anyway, on to maybe next week or 2 weeks time, we shall see. Episode 4 watched, and I actually have time to vlog today and also possibly, hopefully actually read something before I have to leave. But anyway, this episode was so much fun. It was very, very camp, which I really, really enjoyed. I loved just exploring more about all of the witches. I really enjoyed seeing like a curse type thing as well, and a slightly sort of demonic thing, all of this kind of thing. I love the new version of The Witch's Road and more of an explanation into Alice's mother and all of this kind of thing. That was all really, really good fun, and generally I really liked episode 4. I will say though, I've got a ton of theories. I have so many theories. It's unbelievable about this show, mainly around the history between Rio and Agatha, because I am certain that they're ex-girlfriends. I mean, it's blatantly obvious that they've got a past together, but I think it's almost certainly that they're ex-girlfriends because, or ex-wives. Either way, they are exes, because it's clear that they were romantically involved with each other. You can clearly tell that from the way they're reacting to each other, the fact that Agatha almost kissed Rio as well, things like this. And I'm starting to think that they're exes, and the reason why they broke up is over Nicholas, because I have a theory that Nicholas as a baby possibly didn't survive, and Rio as Death, who we know she is, came to reap him and had to reap him, and Agatha really didn't want that to happen, and Rio had to do it anyway because she is Death, that is her duty, and it broke them up. I do think that that is what happened, just from today's episode and the clues that we got about their past and things like this, because obviously when Teen is injured and it looks like he may not like survive or anything, Agatha's saying don't to Rio, like, don't do anything, don't like reap him. She doesn't actually say don't reap him because then that would give away who she is, and obviously they didn't know Funko was going to, you know, spoil that. But anyway, she's basically saying don't take him away, don't reap him, don't like let him die, kind of thing. So I do think that it's going to turn out that Rio had something to do with reaping Nicholas Scratch, Agatha's son, and maybe she tried to get hold of the Darkhold to bring him back or something like this, and that sent her off the dark path. I don't know, but I do definitely think Rio had something to do with Nicholas's death, and that's why they broke up, all of this kind of thing. So that is my theory around that. I'm still convinced that Teen is Billy. I mean, we do know this because of the Funko release. They say he's Wiccan, but that is obviously Billy, but you know, it's fine. I knew that was going to be a thing, but I'm still convinced of that one as well. Though I do really love the entire episode seeing Agatha basically, like, think that maybe Teen is Nicholas. The way she's reacting around him is so very clear, even before Rio says he's not your son, that she thinks he may be a reincarnated version of her son, and you can tell that really by the way she's so protective of him and how worried about him she is, even if she pretends she isn't. It's very, very clear that she thought that Teen was her son, and it is heartbreaking watching Rio go, he's not your son, and yeah, I'm pretty like, that was absolutely heartbreaking. I think Nicholas's story is going to be really, really heartbreaking when we get it. But yeah, I really, really love those scenes. I'm still convinced Teen is Billy because there's no one else he can be, and obviously we got a little bit more information about the sigil as well, saying that the sigil can only be destroyed when it's no longer needed, and I think it's going to be around episode 8, which is usually when all of the reveals happen, and it's going to turn out he's Billy, and obviously Wanda is protecting him. I do not believe Wanda is dead. I've said this before, but I definitely do not think Wanda is dead. And I think even subconsciously she is protecting him, even if she doesn't know that her son's still around. Because obviously he was probably reincarnated or something like he is in the comics, because he should be about 10 years old or 13 years old at this point, and he is 16. So, you know, there's been some kind of reincarnation, speeded up aging or something going on. So I do think something like that is happening, and Wanda is protecting him because that's what a mother does, and I do believe that that is what she is doing, even if she's subconsciously doing it. I do not think we will see Wanda in the show, but I do think it's going to be made clear that Wanda is protecting her child, or at least one of her children. We haven't seen Tommy yet, but she's no doubt protecting him as well, but she's protecting Billy at this moment with the sigil and everything else. And I mean, I think that's also been kind of reinforced a little bit with Alice's mum, saying that obviously she created the Ballad of the Witch's Road, that obviously went massively viral and really, really big and all the rest of it, to protect her daughter. And it kind of acted not as a sigil, but like as a spell to protect her daughter. And I do think that the sigil on Teen is going to turn out to be a sigil to protect him from his mother. So I definitely think that's what's happening. Was there anything else I was going to say? I mean, I love the fact that absolutely nobody is straight in this show. I've got to mention that as well. I love the fact that nobody's straight. Because, I mean, when Rio first turns up, I'm just going to call her Rio for context now, because obviously we don't know she's deaf yet. So I'm just going to carry on calling her Rio, because that's what she's known as in the show at the moment. But when they're walking along the Witch's Road and the rest of them turn to each other and basically go, I don't know whether to be scared of her or to get her number. And I love that so much. I love the fact that they're basically hinting at that absolutely nobody is straight on the road. I am hoping that we get some more confirmation of that, because obviously it's all well and good to hint at LGBTQI plus characters, but it's better to have it on page and on screen confirmation. Basically, we did get confirmation of Agatha and Rio, but I would like to see that with the other characters as well, if they are on the LGBTQI plus like spectrum. So hopefully we will see that. But Aubrey Plaza was definitely right when she said this is the gayest Marvel show, because it definitely is, and I love that about this show. I love everything about this show. I love that it's kind of spooky, I love that it's kind of campy, I love that it's quite fun and all the rest of it. I'm loving all of the theories coming out about it, and I'm just generally having a really, really good time. And as for what I'm going to be reading today, I'm going to be reading the Daughters of Liberty comic, which is a Captain America comic where Agatha is part of the Daughters of Liberty, which is kind of like a small sort of all-female team. I don't really know that much about it because I want to obviously read it brand new for today, so I deliberately didn't look up that much about it. But the reason why I'm going to be reading that today is because the Daughters of Liberty were mentioned in the episode today. It was very, very brief, but Agatha said that she was in a fight with them and now there aren't any more Daughters of Liberty. And I was like, right, well, that's what I'm reading today then. It's a sign. I didn't know when I was going to fit that into this reading order, but I'm going to be reading it today now because it was mentioned in the show. So that is what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to get on and write that blog post and then go and quickly read that comic, and then it's probably actually going to be time for me to leave thinking about it, because I've got to get over to London to go to the Some Like It Cold book launch. So that is what I'm doing tonight. If there is a vlog for that, I'm hoping there is. I'll leave a link to it up above. But right now, I'm going to get on with that blog and then reading that comic. So I've now just read the first issue in the Captain America run that I needed, specifically issue 19. This is by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and that was quite good so far. I will say that this has dropped me right into the middle of the series, obviously because it is issue 19, and I'm about to skip to 26, which is where Agatha turns up again. But I followed it reasonably well. I will say that you should probably have at least some knowledge of the Marvel Universe to read this. It is not one for new people, but if you have knowledge of the Marvel Universe, I reckon you could probably just dive straight into it with issue 19, because it catches you up quite quickly as to what's been going on with Steve Rogers and all the rest of it. So that was quite fun, and also there was added Peggy Carter, which is always fun for me because Peggy is one of my all-time favourite characters of the Marvel Universe. I love every iteration of her, from Captain Carter to Peggy Carter to Agent Carter, whichever version it is. I absolutely love her, essentially. And it's actually quite funny because I'm filming this on the 3rd of October. which is the day Heartstopper comes out, like series 3 of Heartstopper comes out, and I'm not gonna lie, it's taking me everything to not watch it right now, and I'm gonna be watching it tomorrow instead. But Hayley Atwell, who plays Peggy Carter, is in this series, so that's a fun little thing that I'm reading comics about Agatha and Peggy Carter on the day that both their shows come out, and both of them I assume are going to be interacting with Joe Locke, because obviously Agatha's been interacting with Joe Locke because he is teen in the show, and I reckon Hayley Atwell's probably going to have a conversation at some point maybe with Charlie Spring in Heartstopper. She mainly seems to be talking to Nick, but who knows, we may see also her interacting with Joe Locke. So fun times, connections all around. I really love it when stuff like that happens, and I just thought I'd quickly point that out. But yeah, so I'm now going to go on to issue 26 and read 26 through 30, which is the ones where Agatha turns up. But I can already tell I'm going to want to go back and read this series from the beginning, because I'm already very intrigued, to say the least, especially about the Daughters of Liberty, who are essentially a group of women who do a lot of spy work and like undercover work and this kind of thing, because it's what's right and they're trying to do what's right and this kind of thing, which is very interesting, and I wish there was more of that within these types of things. So anyway, on to issue 26. I've now just finished issues 26 through 30, and these were alright. I wouldn't say these are a good one to read if you want to know more about Agatha, because she's only really in issue 19 a lot, and then she's briefly in 27, I think it is, and then she kind of pops up as a background character throughout the rest of them. So if you are looking for stuff about Agatha, not this one I will say, but if you are looking for stuff about the Daughters of Liberty, this is basically your only option as far as I can tell. And they are in this, but they're not like massively in this. I think you'd get more from it if you'd read the entire story, not just those issues that I read specifically. But it was alright, it was pretty fun. I did enjoy seeing all of the various Captain Americas, because I'm always here for Steve, Sam and Bucky. I also like seeing Peggy and Sharon as well, because I'm a really big fan of the Carter family, this kind of thing. But it's a toss-up. If you want stuff about Daughters of Liberty, great, this is where they are. If you want Agatha, not this one, to be honest. So for the actual storyline and the message it had around bigotry and hatred and all of that kind of thing that we are dealing with in the real world, all of this kind of thing, I'm giving it 4 stars. If you're looking for Agatha stuff, this is definitely not going to be the one for you. But overall, it was a pretty decent comic, and I will definitely be reading this again, or like the whole series I should say, from issue 1 through to issue 30 at some other point when I get 5 minutes, when I'm not trying to focus on Agatha stuff. And so that is going to be it for today's vlog, part of the vlog, because I need to start getting ready soon. So I'm going to leave this here. I'm probably not going to vlog next week either, because that is McFly week, and I am going to be exhausted from the previous night's gig and then going immediately out to go to the that night's gig as well, because I'm seeing the Wednesday and Thursday shows, because of course I am. So I'm probably not going to have that much time to vlog anyway next week. Watch that be where there's a massive reveal about either Aubrey Plaza or Joe Locke. I reckon probably... maybe not, I don't know, it's usually episode 8 is usually where they start giving big reveals, but we shall see. Either way, next week, probably not any sort of vlogging or recommendations or anything else, so I will see you lot in 2 weeks in time for episode 6. So I have actually managed to find some time to talk about episode 5, because everyone is out of the house at the moment and I've just got 5 minutes to quickly talk about it. Excuse my voice, by the way. I was at McFly last night and I sang for nearly 3 solid hours, so I'm a little bit croaky and I'm about to do it again tonight, so apologies for that. And I'm also in my pyjamas because I can't be bothered to get dressed until it's time to go out. But anyway, I saw the show last night, like the episode of Agatha All Along, and oh my god, he's Billy. Like, we know this because of the Funko drop, and also I've like suspected it ever since Joe Locke was announced, but he's Billy. He's Billy. Like, he hasn't said his name yet, but with those blue powers, the mind control, and then also the blue crown at the end, and then also Agatha saying, "You're just like your mother." That's Billy. He's wicked. Know it. I absolutely know it. Like, I've suspected this, like I've said, ever since Joe Locke was announced. You know, ever since Joe Locke was announced that he was joining the MCU and he was going to be in Agatha All Along, I was like, Billy? He's Billy. He's Billy. You know, and I was right. Like, I love being vindicated in like theory. I love it when I'm right about these things and it makes me so happy. But anyway, yeah, he's Billy. What else can I say about the episode? I do think this episode last night, episode 5, was just like a tad bit too short. It was only like 27 minutes, I think, and the others have been more like 35. So I think it could have done with being a little bit longer and a little bit more for like Agatha's trial and things like this, because we didn't get that much to do with Agatha's trial. I mean, to be honest, I didn't quite understand Agatha's trial, but to be honest, I was watching this at 2 o'clock in the morning after I'd been up since 9:30 like the previous morning, and I'd already been to a gig. You know, and the gig was like 3 hours long. So, you know, and obviously with that gig I was singing, I was screaming, I was dancing, I was jumping about all over the place. I was exhausted. So it could have just been the fact that I was very tired watching this. I don't know. I am going to rewatch it again in a minute before we leave to go to the O2 again, because I'm obviously going to tonight's show as well. But I'll be talking more about the McFly gigs in a Recently I've Been, which will already be up by the time this video goes up. But it could just be that I will be rewatching it and hopefully I'll understand it a little bit better now, even though I've only had 7 hours sleep and I definitely needed more like 10 to recover, but that's for tomorrow. Anyway, yeah, I didn't quite understand Agatha's trial. I think we could have gone a little bit more into that, maybe a little bit more of her backstory, because obviously we know she killed her previous coven, but we don't know much else apart from that. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more from her trial like we have with the other characters, but, you know, we'll probably get that in another episode. I think we'll probably get an episode when it's covering Rio. It's probably also going to cover her relationship with Agatha, and we'll get a bit more there. And obviously we need to know more about Nicholas Scratch, because they keep on talking about him, all of this kind of thing. So I do think we'll get a little bit more of that in like a later episode, because there's still 4 more left, so I do think that's going to happen. But yeah, I really like this one. I like the vibes of this one. It felt very sort of 80s, 90s sleepover type thing, which I really liked. I like those vibes of it. I really love the costuming of this series. I love how every single trial they get a different costume, and it's always really themed around a certain decade, which I really, really liked. I really like just generally how this show is going. It's very campy, very witchy, very fun, which I'm really, really enjoying. And yeah, I'm really, really liking this, but I was right, he's Billy. Like, the way he flipped at the end there, because obviously Alice died, and I'm very, very sad that Alice died. I really liked Alice because she was Alice. She was a little bit punk in that sense. I really wanted her to get to the end of the road and find her mother and find out what really happened to her. Well, not find out what really happened to her, but to get proper closure for her mother. I wanted her to get like confidence and all the rest of it and become like the witch she could have always been, but now she's dead. So I'm a little bit sad about that, I won't lie, but we did know they were all going to die because death is running around, because death is Rio. So we all knew that they were going to die because Rio needs her bodies and stuff like this. So, you know, that's fine. Not, but there we go. But I love that that's the reason why Billy flipped. And because he was really close to Alice. So I'm really excited to see where this is going to go next, and if we're going to get Billy's backstory next week, and if we're going to get his name, because obviously the sigil isn't supposed to go until like the sigil served its purpose, and then it leaves by itself. I don't know if the sigil has fully like served its purpose yet, because I mean, he's not safe, he's still on the road, but at the same time he's now shown his power, and he is essentially possibly killed everyone else. I don't think he has, because obviously Agatha's got to carry on for the rest of the show, and obviously we still have Lilia and also Jen as well, who are still on the road as well, and I do think they're going to be back again, because we still need Lilia's story, which is episode 7 if I remember rightly, so we should be getting Lilia back as well. But yeah, I'm just like, I don't think anybody's dead apart from Mrs. Hart and Alice, unless other people die on the road, which is entirely possible, to be fair, and it's probably going to happen. But yeah, I really liked how it was Alice's death that flipped Teen in a lot of ways, and he's now come into his power. In terms of whether I think he's been hiding it this whole time, I think he has been. I think Teen has been hiding his magic this whole time, and I think he's been sort of going, he's studying magic and all the rest of it, but he clearly has magic because he broke Agatha out of the spell in the first place, which was technically a dead man spell, because Wanda is technically dead. And which means breaking that spell is incredibly difficult. And Billy in the comics is one of the most powerful characters to exist in terms of magic. He is destined to become the next Sorcerer Supreme. He is known as the Demiurge because he's, if I remember rightly, supposed to be destined to rewrite the laws of magic. He is incredibly powerful as a character. So I do think he knows his magic, and I think what's happened, I know this is going all over the place. My brain is firing on all cylinders in very different ways at the moment. I'm all over the place. I blame the tiredness, but so I'm a little bit delirious. But as I was saying, I do think that, because obviously he says that a lot of things happened to him at 13 and he's now 16, so that was 3 years ago, and we know that in the context of the show it's been 3 years since the Hex. And Wanda with the Hex. So I think what's happened, if we go down a comic book route, which I think they're going to be doing in at least some aspect, I do think what happened was the Teen was a normal human boy for 13 years, and then he got caught in the Hex somehow, and maybe like the car crash was caused by the Hex exploding or something 3 years ago, and he died, and Billy's soul from the Hex took him over. And now he is, for all intents and purposes, Billy from the Hex, but in a different boy's body. Because it's very similar to what happens in the comics, or what is suspected to have happened in the comics with Billy. I'll be going into more detail about that in the blog. And also whenever I do a Billy themed, whenever I start reading Billy comics, because I don't have time today to do that. But I'm thinking that that's what happened. And he's been living sort of as Billy and knowing he's Billy for the last 3 years, and he's been trying to find a way to get his mother back, because obviously Wanda is gone, and I don't believe Wanda is dead, but because that's what I was saying. Yeah, he's Billy. I have so many theories, I've got so many ideas in terms of what's going to happen now, but I do think he's been hiding his magic this whole time, or at the very least he knew he had a certain level of magic, and now it's just kind of exploded out of him because he's so angry at Alice's death. And yeah, I think that's what's going to be happening, and I think that's maybe what he's been doing. He's been hiding who he is and everything else so he can get on the road, so he can get the answers he needs, things like this. In terms of Agatha working it out, I would love to know how she worked that out, because obviously she thought last episode, which to them was about an hour ago, she thought he was Nicholas, her son. And obviously he's not. But they were clearly leading you down that route. And now I'm just like, why? How did she realise he was Billy instead? That is what I'd love to know. How did she find out he was Billy? Because she says, just like your mother. And until that point, he hadn't done anything that was like his mother. So I'm just wondering how she worked that out, and I desperately want that explanation, to be honest, because I'm like, how did you work that out? I mean, I worked it out because context clues in his costume and things like this. One thing I pointed out on TikTok, I should say, one of the clues that I saw, because Joe Locke said that the costume holds all of the secrets to who Teen is, and one of the main clues is that his jeans have got splatters down the side of them that look very much like stars. And in the comics, Billy's costume has stars down the down the side of his costume. And I went, well then, Billy, because the costume gave us clues. So I'm just, what was I saying? I completely lost what I was saying. Oh my god, I'm gonna shut up now. But essentially, I had loads of ideas that he was Billy. I was right. I do believe that he was born a normal human and then was taken over by the soul of Billy when the Hex broke. I don't believe we're going to see Tommy at the end of this series. I do believe we'll see him in the Vision Quest TV show, and I think this is a combination of the James Robinson Scarlet Witch run, because obviously it is because of the Witch's Road, but I do think with Billy it's going to be that he's trying to find answers as to who his mother is or get his mother back, this kind of thing, and it's a little bit of the Children's Crusade because he suspects who his mother is but he's not entirely sure because he doesn't have all of his memories of the time in the Hex, this kind of thing, and he wants to get his mother back and get answers, all the rest of it, figure out if he is actually the son of the Scarlet Witch. And the only other thing I've got to say is that I'm really sad Alice died because I really liked her, and also I want to know how Agatha worked it out, because I worked it out through costume clues. That's what I'm saying. I worked it out through costume clues, context clues, and just generally the clips we've seen where he's surrounded by blue magic, which is obviously Wiccan's magic, so that's how I worked it out. But seeing as she doesn't know any of this because obviously she's not in our world, so she hasn't read comics or anything else, I want to know how she managed it. But anyway, I'm now going to write a blog post that is hopefully going to be coherent, and I will see you next week after episode 6 when we hopefully get some more answers, when I also have time to read some comics and actually talk about this properly with comics to back it up. But we shall see. Anyway, the camera's gone blurry, we're back in focus again. I'm gonna go because I am very tired. My voice is going. I need to save it for more singing tonight. And yeah, I'm gonna go write a blog post now. We're now at episode 7 and I have just watched it, and I've also got a really bad cough because obviously I was at McFly last week and I got the cold, so got the McFlu, so that's why I sound croaky and why my eyes are a little bit watery and everything else. But anyway, I've now watched episode 7 and we've got all of the Billy reveal. It's not episode 7, it's episode 6. Ignore me. Episode 6. I can't count. Anyway, we've now got the full backstory for Billy, or at least a lot of the backstory for Billy as to why he's there, what he's doing, all the rest of it. And my theories were wrong. I was convinced for a very long time that he was the one who created the road and he was manipulating reality, so they all thought they were on the road to get what he wanted. But it turns out he hasn't been manipulating this, unless he actually has been with his reality warping powers. He just doesn't know he has those yet, because obviously he's very much a baby witch at this point. He's got no idea what he's doing. He's basically reading out the spell book and hoping for the best. So it could just still be that, I don't know. We still have the shot of him on top of the doors, it looks like, to the Witch's Road, covered in a sigil, arms out, powers going, everything else. So, don't know when that's coming, but yeah, so I was completely wrong on that, it looks like, but I so enjoyed the backstory of this one and finding out how it happened, with him being in a car crash just outside of the Hex when it broke, and then William Kaplan died and Billy took over his body, which I thought was going to happen, so I'm glad I was right about that, I won't lie. And I really like the progression of him trying to figure out what happened to him and what was going on, what happened in the Hex, whether or not he is Billy, this kind of thing. I loved it when he said, "My name is Billy Maximoff." That just brought me ridiculous amounts of joy, I won't lie, because he's Billy! And I've been waiting for Billy and Tommy to turn up for, well, since the end of Multiverse Madness, I've been waiting for them to be properly confirmed in the MCU and to stay here, so very happy to have them here. But I do have one problem with this episode that I have to quickly mention, and that is Ralph Boner. Oh my god, I'm so annoyed. Like, I will fight Kevin Feige over this, I'm not gonna lie, because ever since it was rumoured that Evan Peters was gonna be in, like, in WandaVision, I've been like, that's X-Men Quicksilver. It's X-Men Quicksilver. When he turned up, it literally said in the audio description, if I remember rightly, X-Men Quicksilver, or Quicksilver from the X-Men. Either way, they made it very, very clear that that was X-Men Quicksilver. And then they haven't confirmed that he's X-Men Quicksilver. And I'm like, excuse you. Like, that is X-Men Quicksilver, and I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill if I have to, because obviously I am a massive X-Men nerd. I love the X-Men. I grew up on the X-Men. We've had several X-Men characters with their original actors turning up. So we've had Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier. We've had obviously Hugh Jackman as Wolverine back, and we've also had Kelsey Grammer as Beast turn up in the MCU now, but not Evan Peters as Quicksilver. I'm like, excuse you, there is no way, because they haven't used literally any other X-Men actor in these shows, and or TV shows or films or anything, unless they have been that character. And I'm like, Evan Peters cannot be the exception to the rule here. There's no way they didn't use him specifically for this, especially with the mutant saga starting up and everything else. I'm still convinced that he is X-Men Quicksilver, and I don't know, maybe he's just trying to survive in this world or something, or Charles is like talking to him through like the multiverse, because Charles is probably that powerful, let's be honest here, especially with a Cerebro boost, especially if he's also working in conjunction with like Jean and Emma maybe as well, because obviously Jean and Emma are that powerful as well. They're all working in conjunction. They may be trying to talk to Quicksilver. I know I'm going absolutely nuts about this, and I have no regrets over it because I will die on this hill, but I still think maybe that they are trying to figure out what's going on and trying to get him home again, this kind of thing, and he is just stuck in the main MCU timeline at the moment due to incursions, and they're just trying to figure out what's going on, trying to help him survive, all of this kind of thing, and he is really affected by what happened to him with Agatha. I have no doubt he is very, very affected by that, because who wouldn't be, but I am convinced that he is X-Men Quicksilver, and I will die on this hill. In fact, I'm going to die on this hill. If they actually say, no, he is nothing to do with X-Men Quicksilver, we just cast him for, like, an Easter egg or something, especially after all of the other X-Men characters turn up, I'm going to fight Kevin Feige myself. I will hunt him down, and I will fight him over this, because it's X-Men Quicksilver. He is my favourite Quicksilver. He does it so well, and you cannot put in the actor who plays Quicksilver, the son of Magneto, and then not make him Quicksilver. That makes no sense to me in my head, especially with the other actors turning up and coming back as those characters in different MCU properties. You know, that just makes no sense, especially as one of the people that Ralph Bohner interacted with the most was, in that final episode, was Monica Rambeau. And Monica Rambeau is now in the X-Men universe. Are you telling me that they didn't just kind of swap, like, a few years out of, like a few years from each other? They just did a swap? Because no, variants exist and all the rest of it. I'm fully able to believe that, yeah, he could be like just a variant or something, but where the hell did the speedster powers come from? Excuse me, the speedster powers came from somewhere. So, just, and Agatha didn't do it. Agatha said it was hard enough to control him in the first place. So, you know, I'm very passionate about the Ralph Bohner Quicksilver thing. I'm very, very passionate about it. Everything else about this episode was absolutely fantastic. I love the rest of the episode. I love the fact that it was Lilia who put the sigil on him. Like, on Billy, I mean, to protect him before he even needed protecting. I loved all of that stuff. I was convinced, admittedly, that it was Wanda somehow, that she was protecting him, but I like that it was Lilia. I loved everything to do with, like, Billy's backstory. I like that he's got the boyfriend, Eddie. I do think it's going to turn out that he is going to turn out to be Teddy, because Eddie, Teddy, their nicknames are the same name, so I do think it is going to turn out that he is going to be Teddy somehow. I don't know how, but I do think he's going to turn out to be Teddy, because why introduce a boyfriend for Billy called Eddie and then not make him Teddy? That makes no sense, because then he'll have to break up with that boyfriend and then get a new one, and I'm like, no, that's going to make no sense. I think he's going to turn out to be Billy, Teddy, I mean, so I was really, really happy about all of that. I really loved everything to do with the, like, Billy finding out who he was and everything else, and trying to figure out where his mother was and where his father was, and obviously he's sensing his brother, and he wants his brother back. I really like that it was, the fact that he wants his brother because he believes his mother is dead. I personally do not, but there we go. Vision is obviously also not dead, but we've got no idea where Vision is, because Vision became White Vision and flew off 3 years ago, and we've got no idea where he is, so I'm fine with that as well. But I really love that he's looking for Tommy, and I really hope he does find him. Personally, I'm wondering if we are going to see him at the end of this, or if he's going to be like revealed maybe in Vision Quest instead of the Vision TV show. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. So then each show either brings in one of the children or finds one of the children, this kind of thing. But I do love that he's trying to find Tommy. I loved everything else about this episode. It was all absolutely fantastic. I did miss Rio though. I really missed Rio, but I'm always going to miss Rio when she's not there, because she is a fantastic character. But yeah, it's the Ralph Bohner thing. I'm always going to keep on going back to Ralph Bohner, because, oh God, they can't keep doing this to me. They can't keep teasing me with X-Men Quicksilver and then be like, no, he's not X-Men Quicksilver, because fight me, he is. Like, fight me on this. You can't introduce a whole load of other X-Men characters and the mutants and everything else and bring back so many legacy X-Men characters and actors who originally played them and then not do that with Evan Peters. I'm sorry, you don't do that. That is ridiculous. So that's annoying me, and I am preparing to fight Kevin Feige on this. I've been willing to die on this hill for 3 years and I'm still not ready to die on this hill. I won't lie, but overall, I have really enjoyed this episode. I really liked it. That bit didn't have me swearing, but there we go. But anyway, I'm now going to go write a blog post about all of the Easter eggs in this episode and the last 3 episodes, and then I think I'm going to read something Billy based, and what I think I'm going to read is the Children's Crusade, because the Children's Crusade is something I've been saving for a very long time, which is where Billy and Tommy have to team up together to try and find their mother. And obviously Billy isn't trying to find his mother at this point, but it's a Billy-centric comic I haven't read yet, so I think I'm going to go with that one, because it's about Billy, it's about Tommy, it's about Teddy, I mean, so I'm going to go read that one, I think. But first, I'm going to write a blog post. But those were my thoughts on the episodes for the last 10-minute ramble, but damn it, Ralph Boner. That's all I'm saying is, god damn it, Ralph Boner is going to be the death of me, because I'm going to die on this hill. So I've just started Young Avengers, and at the same time, I'm currently, ironically enough, trying to buy a Funko of Lucifer, and it is one of the exclusive ones from NYCC, and I'm currently trying to get hold of it on my phone and my laptop. My laptop is currently saying the website won't take payments, and my phone is currently in the queue, so I don't know how well this is going to work. But the reason why I'm mentioning that is because the Lucifer is based off the Sandman comics, and Sandman is currently being adapted for Netflix by Alan Heinberg, who wrote this comic, and is also the creator of Billy and Tommy in the current iterations that they are in. So I just thought it was a nice sort of little crossover there, because both of the things I'm doing right now is to do with Alan Heinberg and Alan Heinberg's like creations and things like this. So interesting fact. But anyway, I will say just reading the opening pages of this, I think it would probably help to have read the original Alan Heinberg Young Avengers, just so you've got a bit of context for this before you go into Children's Crusade, because while Billy is giving a nice sort of rundown of who all of these characters are and what their powers are, it may just help to have that little bit more context by having read the original comics, because Billy is talking about the fact that they have had parts in like Civil War and things like this. They've also helped defend Asgard, this kind of thing. And he's also just introduced himself and Tommy, and he said Tommy Shepard has super speed, white hair and a criminal past, all of which he shares with the former Avenger Quicksilver. For obvious reasons, he's called Speed. He also happens to look exactly like me, which, in addition to my having magic powers, makes me think Tommy and I might actually be the long-lost twin sons of Quicksilver's sister, the Scarlet Witch. My name is Billy Kaplan, but in the field I'm called Wiccan. And while that's a really nice sort of intro to these characters, I do think it's best to have the backing of having read Young Avengers. I have already read Young Avengers. I read them a few years ago now, actually, so it's been a while, but I do generally remember what happened. But I do think it'd be best to have that sort of basis before reading this. But also I should say as well that the reason why Billy has these thoughts as well, that maybe they are the children of Scarlet Witch, is because in a previous comic, Hulkling had been kidnapped by some Kree, and the rest of the Young Avengers had to find him essentially and rescue him. They found Tommy in the meantime because they hadn't met Tommy before then, and Cassie Lang's gone, you two could be twins. And they've sort of just put it out of their heads because they've got more important things to do, like rescuing Hulkling. For context, I don't know if I've actually said this yet, but whenever I say Hulkling, I mean Teddy, who is Billy's boyfriend at this point. In the future, he's his husband, but whenever I say Hulkling, I mean Teddy, Billy's boyfriend. Or I should say partner, actually, because obviously husband now, but I'll say partner. And yeah, they end up rescuing him and everything else, and a Super Skrull reveals who Hulkling is, in the sense that he is a Kree Skrull hybrid, and then also that Billy and Tommy are the sons of Scarlet Witch and Vision, which is why Billy has these thoughts, and he's like, yeah, that's probably like true, and kind of this kind of thing. Tommy doesn't believe it, and all of this comes out in the Young Avengers run, so I should definitely say go and read those, because that's where you'll get those moments of explanation as to where Billy got this conclusion from. But anyway, good start. Really liking the artwork, really like the mini intros to all of these characters, and yeah, wish me luck on trying to get the Lucifer pop, because I really want it. I love that show, and I've really wanted pops for it for a while, so wish me luck on the website actually working and taking payment. So Billy has just shown a massive amount of power. He is essentially just like knocked out a bunch of nuclear bombs and 20 people and hasn't realised he's done it. So he's put them all in comas and disarmed the bombs and everything else, and he hasn't realised he's done it. And the Avengers are naturally very cautious about this, and I have explained to him now what happened at House of M, because they, the Young Avengers didn't know about this because the world was rewritten, this kind of thing. So he never knew what happened at House of M, kind of like Billy doesn't know what happened in the Hex in the TV show. And now the Young Avengers and the Avengers themselves are looking at Billy going, well, we suspect who your mother is, and we've seen what she can do, and now you're doing things and you don't realise you're doing them. So we're a little bit scared of you, and we're a little bit concerned for you. And what's really interesting is the parallels between the two of them, and how they're discussing Wanda in front of the kid who's potentially her son. And they're going, look, she was a murderer because she killed Ant-Man and several other people, and we don't want that to happen to you. But it's like, not saying it's definitely going to happen or anything else, but we want to keep a close eye on you. And Billy saying, no, I do not want that to happen. Are we not going to give Scarlet Witch the benefit of the doubt or anything else? We're just going to believe the worst of her and this kind of thing. And I'm really loving this juxtaposition between the two of them, and this parallel between the two of them as well, because they're clearly going, look, he's his mother's son in a lot of ways, which I really, really like, especially with everything going on in Agatha all along as well, proving he is his mother's son in a lot of ways. Especially with that line, you're just so much like your mother. So I'm really, really liking all of this. I'm literally only a few pages in, but I am really liking this so far. I'm really liking the parallels. Like I said, I'm really liking the artwork, the discussions they're having about Billy's powers versus Wanda's, this kind of thing. Really liking this so far, and that my camera battery is running out, so I should probably change that and get back to reading this and trying to get through to buy this pop, because at the moment everyone's having problems. So wish me even more luck, to say the least. I got the pop, yay! But also, I will say right now that this does need a lot of context to it, because you need to know about Doctor Doom, Latveria, you need to know about how the Young Avengers were formed. It helps to have also read House of M, because this is dealing a lot with the fallout of that, and we are right in the middle of House of M when this is going on, because most of the mutants are still depowered, so there's all of that context to go into this as well. You also need to know about Wanda's history with Wonder Man and his connection to Vision, and then all of this kind of thing. There's a lot of context that you need for this. I'd say that you could possibly read this without it, but you will be confused for like a good 90% of it, because so much of this is dealing with various different bits of context to do with like the depowering of the mutants, of what happened to Billy and Tommy when they were first born, and what happened with them and Mephisto and the soul taking, all of this kind of thing. There's a lot of it going on, and while it does give like quick sort of summaries of what happened throughout the speech of this, because they're having to tell Wanda what's going on, because Wanda is an amnesiac at this point and has no memory of what's happened. Yeah, I would not say this is a good one to read if you know nothing about Marvel Comics. If you are completely and utterly brand new, don't read this. That's what I'm going to say. If you are up to date, or at least you know a fair bit about, say, House of M, the mutants, the Young Avengers, things like this, you could probably read this. But if you are completely brand new to Marvel Comics, this is not the place to start. Even if you are really, really interested in Billy, I'd say you have to read Young Avengers at the very least. I'd say Young Avengers and House of M. If you're going to read this, at the very least read Young Avengers, Avengers Disassembled, House of M. Yeah, read those three at the very least. Then you could probably get away with it. But at least those three before you read this, without doubt. Because a lot of this otherwise will not make sense. You could probably get away with not knowing about Wonder Man and things like this. But at the very least have that context. Oh, and also to Kang the Conqueror. you also need context to Kang the Conqueror for this one for Iron Lad. So yeah, also know a bit about Kang the Conqueror, then you can read this. But I am really enjoying this. It's definitely worth reading, but there is a lot of pre-reading to go first, because obviously it's a huge thing that is a massive part of multiple events and multiple big storylines, this kind of thing. Also, you should also, thinking about it, probably have context as to why like Teddy is a Kree-Skrull hybrid and why that was such a huge thing when that happened. So definitely also look up about the Kree and the Skrulls as well for a bit of context as to who he is and why he's talking about how difficult it is to come from that lineage, so he completely understands Billy's lineage as well and what Billy's going through, knowing he's related to the Scarlet Witch, or at least suspecting he's related to the Scarlet Witch and Magneto. So also good to have context on Kree and Skrull War as well. So there's a lot of pre-reading, but definitely worth it. And I'm going to shut up now because my voice is definitely going again. Just damn this cold. Believe it or not, I'm feeling better now. But yeah, I'm going to shut up for a bit and carry on reading. But yeah, there's a lot of context to go with this one, I will say. Definitely a lot of context you need for this. One thing I really love about comics is the fact that even when very, very serious things happen and emotional things happen, you still get moments of levity as well. And I think that is something that Marvel does really, really well in their comics and in their films and TV shows. Specifically, so we've just had Wanda and the twins have just met each other again, and she's realised, or at least Tommy's convinced her, that they are her children, and she's cast a spell and gone, yeah, you are my children, this kind of thing. And the Avengers are currently an hour away because they're at everyone's managed to convene at Avengers Mansion, and the Avengers were in Latveria. They've got to fly back in again, and they've just contacted Hawkeye, who is now alive again through the power of time travel and magic. I love comics because no one stays dead. Through the power of time travel and magic, people can come back at any point. Anyway, the Avengers are saying that they're at least an hour away. Can you keep Wanda there so they can at least talk to her? I'm very much not agreeing with the fact they want to kill her or anything else, so definitely don't agree with that, to say the least. But that is an entirely different conversation. But Pietro is speaking at 1,000,000 miles per hour, going like, how is she? Is she alright? I must speak with my sister at once. And someone's gone, what's that noise? And Iron Man's like, that's the noise Pietro makes right before he gets tossed out of the airlock. And I absolutely love that, because I really wish we'd seen more of that in the MCU, specifically with Pietro, because obviously he's only in the one movie, and I think it would have been really great to see more of him and Clint, like, bouncing off each other in that way and arguing with each other and that kind of thing, and seeing Pietro just annoying everyone around him, because he's Pietro. It would have been really great. It definitely would have fit with his character that Aaron Taylor-Johnson was doing. So I do really wish we'd had more of that in the MCU and he hadn't died, but obviously because of the Fox like universe as well, they decided to split it down the middle. So one of them got the Quicksilver, the other one got the Scarlet Witch, so there was no confusion. So X-Men got Quicksilver, MCU got Scarlet Witch, and now we seem to have Quicksilver, but he's not Quicksilver, and again, gonna die on that hill, but not the point of this update. But I really like this scene. I love the fact that we've had this deeply emotional moment and then levity in the middle of it. I do genuinely love that, and I'm not going to think about MCU Pietro again because I'm just going to get annoyed. Because seriously, if he's not X-Men Quicksilver, what is the point of him being in the shows? What is the point if he's not X-Men Quicksilver? What is the point? I've now just finished Children's Crusade, and this was so much fun. I love the exploration as to Billy and Tommy's heritage and them with their family, with Wanda, and obviously Pietro and Eric as well. I keep on saying Eric. I mean Magneto. I always call him Eric because I'm used to watching the X-Men movies, and Charles constantly calls him Eric, so I now just constantly call him Eric. When I say Eric, I mean Magneto. But like, I love them sort of exploring the family of that. I loved seeing the Young Avengers really sort of band around Billy as well and being so close to him. I really hope we get that in the MCU when they all come together. I'm really hoping they really band together as a group. I do not think the group is going to be the exact same lineup as it is in the comics, considering they have dropped the whole Kang the Conqueror storyline for obvious reasons with the actor Jonathan Majors, so that is absolutely fine. I don't think they'll use Iron Lad, but we do have Miss Marvel instead, so because she's clearly like setting up a team, as we know, by the end of the Marvels. So that's very interesting. I'm really excited to see how this team comes together and seeing them become like a big family, all of this kind of thing. Really excited about that. I loved seeing the Avengers versus the X-Men and seeing them going at each other's throats again, because to be honest, even though they are my two favourite superhero teams, I love to watch them fight because they are so evenly matched in a lot of ways. It's so much fun to see them like going at each other in that way. I love seeing that. I really enjoyed just all of this. With like Doctor Doom as well. Doctor Doom is always a character who is so much fun to read about, because he isn't just like, I'd say, like an evil Iron Man type character. He's also a sorcerer and things like this, and he's always scheming, and he's always got plot twists, and he's always trying to figure out like another angle, and he's always trying to work out what to do next and all of this kind of thing. He is such a fascinating villain. I love reading about him, so I'm really excited for Doom War and Secret Wars, because that's going to be all about Doom, played by RDJ, and I'm so excited for that. But this comic is just so much fun though. I really enjoyed it. But what I will say though, if you are going to read Children's Crusade, you definitely need to read Avengers Disassembled, House of M, at the very least the main House of M. You could probably get away with not reading Messiah Complex, Messiah War and Second Coming, because they happen after this one, but you'll definitely need to have read House of M. You'll also need to know about Wonder Man as well, because he plays a fair big part in this. You'll also need as well the Young Avengers issues as well, because there's a lot to do with them in this as well, obviously, because they are the main characters of this. All of this kind of thing. There is a lot of pre-reading with this one, but it is so worth it. Obviously as well, actually Kang the Conqueror, I forgot about that. Kang the Conqueror, you'll need to know about his history with Iron Lad as well, and why the two of them are connected, and why it's so important that Iron Lad doesn't mess with the time streams, this kind of thing, because that is a big part of this as well. But it was so much fun to read. I will say I do wish Wanda had more agency in this one, because I do find with a lot of Wanda based comics, she doesn't have that much agency. She is mainly there to cause havoc or be like the magical MacGuffin. To be honest, she doesn't usually get as much storyline as she does in the MCU itself. She's generally there, and it's generally kind of a love interest quite a lot of the time, because a lot of this is basing around the fact that she was with Vision, she was with Wonder Man, and now Doom's in love with her, and Captain America used to be in love with her, and all of this kind of thing. There's a lot of people who used to be in love with Wanda, or are in love with Wanda, and this kind of thing, and I do wish Wanda's storyline for once didn't centre around that. I wish it had centred more around the fact that she was like not looking for her children, but discovered that her children were alive, this kind of thing. And while we were dealing with the accountability of what she'd done in House of M and depowering the mutants and this kind of thing, I do wish it focused more on that and not on Doom being in love with her and things like this, and her being in love with Doom, because I don't like that storyline that much. I mean, because if it would have been fine if she wasn't just constantly with someone, you know. So I think it would have been better if maybe she hadn't been with Doom, and maybe Doom was just using her or something. That would have been sort of maybe a little bit better, but I do think the romance storyline wasn't really needed in here between those two. But everything else was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed how protective Teddy is over Billy and things like this, and him basically at one point saying, if you betray him, I will tear you limb from limb, which was brilliant to read. He's only 16, but you absolutely believe it when he says that. I loved the relationship Quicksilver had with Speed throughout here as well, because they are very much like nephew and uncle, and they it's like the first time they've really met each other, and their developing relationship was great because they were just basically bantering against each other, which was fantastic. I loved all of that, and it was literally just the romance between Wanda and Doom where I was a little bit like, why are we doing this? But everything else was absolutely fantastic, and I'm giving it 4 stars. If you have read all of the things I have mentioned, or you at the very least have knowledge of them, definitely read Children's Crusade, especially if you want to know more about Billy and his heritage and his connection with the Scarlet Witch, all of this kind of thing. This is a brilliant one to read, especially after the episode we've just had, where he's obviously trying to find answers and this kind of thing. It's not the same storyline by any means, but it definitely has those kind of vibes to it, and I really enjoyed it. So definitely 4 stars. And as for what I'm going to read now, I think I'm going to go for the latest Infinity comic, which is Wiccan and Hulkling, and this one they are teaming up with Agatha, so there's no real better time to read this than now, because obviously Billy is now officially not teamed up with Agatha, because they haven't teamed up in the show, but they are having to work together, put it that way, or at least maybe not work together, but they're on the same road and the same journey. So I'm going to read this, see what I think about it, and I think this is set after Empire, so I'll report back on that one, but I have been meaning to read this for a while, and this week feels like the perfect week to do that, so I'm going to read that now. Yeah, this is definitely taking place after Empire, so you'll definitely need to read Empire first and know about the Kree Skrull War, all the rest of it. I've covered that in a reading vlog, which I'll leave a link to up above, but Billy and Teddy are just about to have their first ever dinner party, and they've invited some of Billy's childhood heroes, because Billy is a massive superhero nerd, and the childhood heroes in question are these guys. So we have North Star, Kyle, and Iceman. And the reason why I'm just saying Kyle instead of like a superhero name is because Kyle is human. He is not a superhero in any way, but he is married to North Star, who is a mutant superhero. And these two were the first gay couple to ever get married in Marvel Comics, and in comics in general. Actually, they were the first two to ever get married. Like a queer couple to get married in comics, and they were also the ones to have the front cover marriage special as well, so it was completely front cover, front and center. They are getting married, and this was in 2008, I think it was a while ago anyway, but they are the first two for that to happen. Billy and Teddy were the second queer couple to this to happen to, and then the third ones were Mystique and Destiny. So Billy and Teddy were the first two who were queer superheroes, who were both superheroes, to get married, and then North Star and Kyle were the first two queer people to get married in Marvel Comics. And then we also have Iceman, who is also an out and gay character. He was believed to be straight, and he thought he was straight until just after House of M, actually. Thinking about it, it was a spin-off one from House of M, where it turns out he is actually gay, and he has been closeted for a very long time, and he wasn't accepting it himself either, so it took him a very, very long time to come out, and then it was explored in Uncanny X-Men? It wasn't Uncanny X-Men, it was the other one. I'll write the title here. Either way, it was by Brian Michael Bendis, and it was a fantastic run that I absolutely loved. But I love that these three are Billy's childhood heroes, being queer superheroes just like Billy is. So just wanted to point that out, and I'm loving the artwork as well. It's kind of reminding me a little bit of like anime, which I am really, really liking as well. I've now just finished that, and this was a pretty good read. I do wish Agatha had been in it a little bit more, though. She's basically only in it at the end with this like fiery bit here where she's just explaining what she did to them. I won't go into it in full detail in case you want to read it yourselves, but it was a nice exploration as to what maybe could have been if maybe Billy and Teddy had never met, this kind of thing, and it was quite fun. But I would have liked to have seen Agatha more in this and to really sort of dig more into this, I will say, because it did kind of go a little bit quickly, but it was still pretty fun, and I'm going to give it a 3.5 stars, and that's where I'm going to leave it for today, because I'm running out of space on this camera now, and I've run out of time to read anything else. So this is where I'm going to leave it, and I'll see you next week for episode 7. Episode 7 done, and I've still got this cold, but oh my god, that was such a good episode. Oh my god. So this one was all about Lilia and talking about like her premonitions, her life, this kind of thing, and it was her trial with the tarot cards and everything else, and oh my god, that was good. That was so good. Like, I loved how they wove in all of those moments where she's seen the future but you don't know what she's doing because she's just shouting random things, and weaving that in as to how she sees time. That was incredible and like so well done. I mean, the wibbly wobbly timey-wimey nature of it was incredible, and like how they did that was just, oh, that was gorgeous. Like, hats off to Jack Schaefer and the rest of the team for doing that, because that was incredible to watch. And then just the costuming as well, like, everyone looked incredible. It's like these classic witches. That was awesome. I mean, Agatha looked amazing green, so, you know, Catherine Hahn, just Elphaba at any point, because I think she would have made a great Elphaba, to say the least. But anyway, I loved all of that. I love the costuming of it. I love that we're still getting these questions of, is Billy actually Billy, or is he like William? Like, who actually is he? Because obviously he doesn't have his memories. He doesn't know who he is because he doesn't remember being William, but he also doesn't really remember being Billy. He's got these vague powers and things like this, and he knows that he is Billy Maximoff technically, but he doesn't really know who he is, which very much reflects the comics in the sense that Wanda doesn't really know like whether her children are the original reincarnated souls, and they were incarnated into the bodies that they inhabit now at birth, or if they took over later, that kind of thing. I love that they're kind of reflecting that in the TV show in a different way, but still doing that. I love that element of it. I love the tarot elements of it as well. I don't really know tarot, I won't lie. I don't really have any sort of knowledge of tarot, but I loved how they did all the tarot stuff. That was absolutely fantastic. I loved seeing Lilia like read her own like tarot deck and everything else. That was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I'm so sad about her death though. I am so sad about her death, because I don't think she deserved it. None of the witches have deserved it so far. But speaking of death, we've had the reveal, and I mean, it would have been so much better if Funko hadn't have spoiled that weeks ago and we'd had the death reveal, because that death reveal was epic. Oh my god, like the way she came out of the shadows there, oh, 10 out of 10, no notes. Aubrey Plaza was born for this, and she looked so good as Death. Oh, I mean, that costume and that reveal, oh. And the fact that Agatha knows. And Agatha's like, what can I say? I like the bad boys. I'm like, yes, Agatha. Like, I mean, if I was her, I also would have been attracted to Rio like that, because just look at her. Rio, essentially. I will definitely be buying that pop when it comes out, along with Billy and Agatha as well, because I need them. But, oh, that reveal. And I'm just like, I've got so many comics, I was going to read about Agatha, because I've got Contest of Chaos. I've also got the new Agatha Harkness run they're running on Marvel Unlimited, which is set in a different universe. I've also got the latest Midnight Suns as well, where which she is in. So I can read all of those. But now I kind of want to read about Death. And I don't really have anything about Death, because for some stupid reason, I haven't so far found a list of things the Death is in. So I'm going to do that in a minute, because I've got to write a blog post anyway about Death. I know a fair amount about Death. Again, I know her connection to Deadpool and everything else, because obviously Death was with Deadpool and fell in love with Wade when he was in Department H. And it was basically he tried to kill himself essentially so he could be with her, and then Ajax did it absolutely awfully, so Ajax essentially, you know, killed him, and then he came back through the power of just sheer revenge, essentially. Long story short on that one, but she does have connections to Deadpool. Thanos is also in love with her for a while in the comics, and that's why he does the snap to try and impress her in the comics, if I remember rightly. So she's got a lot of connections to loads of different Marvel characters. So I'm going to have a lot of fun writing this blog post for today, but she's Death. I'm so excited she's Death. Like, I knew it was coming, and that reveal was so good. I mean, the whole thing was so good, but that Death reveal was so good, and it would have been so much better if I didn't know it was coming. Like, I was fine with knowing Billy was coming. That was fine. It was the Death one, though. That would have had me screaming if I hadn't have known what was coming, but that was so good. Oh my god, I love that episode. I wish she hadn't have died though, but I guess to get Death back again, they need someone to die. But, I mean, Salem 7 were all there. All dead, so I don't know. But anyway, I'm so excited for the 2-part finale next week. It's a double bill next week for the final 2 episodes, which is really, really exciting. I'm really excited to find out more about Agatha and Rio's relationship, hopefully finding out more about Nicholas Scratch as well. Hopefully seeing what's happening with the road, because I have a theory. I forgot to mention, I have a theory about the road, because so much of the road has elements of Billy's room in it. So Billy's got posters in there to like the Wizard of Oz and all of this kind of thing, and then that's reflected in the road. So specifically in the 80s Ouija board one, like Trial, you see similar posters throughout the room, and then very similar board games to what Billy's got. You've also got the fact that all of it, the trials are signified by phases of the moon, and Billy's chair, when he's trying to figure out if he is Billy Maximoff, has the phases of the moon on it, and things like this. And I'm like, that sounds a bit like Billy's controlling the road, and in my mind I'm just wondering if he is, because actually thinking about it, he's also got models on one of his shelves of all of the witches. So he's got like Glinda, Elphaba, he's also got the Snow White one, he's also got Maleficent, things like this. If you look closely in his episode where you see all of the like parts of his room, you'll actually see models at the side there, and obviously they were all dressed as those witches in this episode, and I'm starting to wonder if he's controlling the road somehow, very much like Wanda did, like with Westview, and I'm just wondering if he is possibly not exactly controlling the road, but maybe he's put them on the road or something like this, because we have seen that shot of him on top of the doors to the road, surrounded by a pentagram, with his arms out using his powers, and I'm like, is he controlling the road? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there now because obviously it's the 2-part finale next week. So I'll find out then. But I'm just wondering if the road has something to do with him. Because obviously we know that he can warp reality in the comics, and it's very clear that he's going to have a lot of power, like, going forward. We've already seen Lilia talk about that, saying that he's going to have a lot of power and he's got a lot of potential and things like this. In the comics, Billy is so powerful. He is called the Demiurge, and he is basically predicted to rewrite the laws of magic, or he can rewrite the laws of magic if he goes full Demiurge. So I'm just wondering if they're going to give him a very similar power set, and a very similar power set to his mother, and draw that parallel of she controlled Westview, he's controlling the road. For whatever reason that may be. Maybe he's scared of the Salem 7, he put them on the road without realising it, because obviously as well, thinking about it, he said, I wish Lilia was here, and suddenly Lilia is with them in this episode. So I think he's doing a little bit of controlling the road and things like this. So I'm just putting that out there now, because I could be wrong, but I could be right, and I'm hoping I'm right. But I'm just putting that out there now, and now I'm going to go write that blog post about Death and find some comics about Death and give them a read. Maybe some Agatha as well. I haven't quite decided yet, but I'm going to see what I can find in terms of comics centering around Death and go from there. And I'm just, in conclusion, I love this episode. I'm running out of space on my memory card, so I'm going to shut up, go write that blog post, and go and read something and update you then. So I've decided to go for Deadpool versus Thanos just because it was the only standalone I could find. Everything else sort of ties into the original Infinity War events and all of this kind of thing, or Ben Reilly, who is the Scarlet Spider, and I was just not touching Ben Reilly with a barge pole for a while because his saga is just very long and very confusing, and I just didn't really fancy going there for the minute. So I went for Deadpool versus Thanos, where the two of them are basically fighting over death, and I'm hoping this isn't going to land itself into a whole ton of misogyny, but we shall see. Also, I think this is a good one to go for me personally, just for the minute. I'll obviously update you if it's a good one for everybody else when I've read it, but I think it's a good one to go for anyway, because it's kind of a standalone, but it also features two characters Death is very closely tied to, in ways I've already explained. But anyway, this has opened with Wade going to Doctor Doom's private island and shooting him. He's phoned up the Avengers and gone, hey, I've done your job for you. I've killed Doctor Doom. Doom has naturally stood back up again because he's Doom and a shotgun ain't going to kill him. And he's about to fire at Wade, and Wade's gone, why for art thou dead, Doomio? And I just wanted to point that out because I love that we are basically 2 pages in and Wade is already cracking jokes, and I love that about him. That is one of my favourite things of Deadpool, and I just really like that line, and I just wanted to point it out. So in this comic, it turns out that Death has been kidnapped, and it means that no one can die. So literally everyone is keeping on living, which should be seen as a good thing, but it's messing up ecosystems and all of this kind of thing. So Thanos and Wade have teamed up together to try and find Death, essentially, because she is talking to Wade whenever he dies, when he's in the in-between place, and she's managing to send him very small messages, and Thanos has basically grabbed him and taken him along for the ride because Wade has the clues, and Thanos wants to get there as well to go and find her. And they're travelling across the galaxy and all of this kind of thing, and they run into the Guardians of the Galaxy, because naturally if Thanos is about, the Guardians are not very far behind. And I just want to say right now, why do we have to have this kind of sexist outfit for Gamora? Like, why does this keep on happening? Like why is Gamora wearing this? Like, why? Seriously, why can't female characters in half of these comics ever get to wear practical clothing? Like, if a man was also dressed very, very similarly, I wouldn't mind so much, because then it'd be like an equal kind of thing. But it's always Gamora, and I'm just like, can we not, for 5 minutes, put women in actual clothing? Just what? Why? why? That's all I've got, it's just why. I'm on the 3rd issue of 4 and Mephisto has just turned up, and we've just seen a lot of various flashbacks to when Wade died the first time round, all of this kind of thing, and I'm starting to think this won't be good for people who are brand new to Marvel Comics, because it does rely on you knowing a fair bit about how Wade came to be Deadpool. You also need a fair amount of knowledge on Thanos as well, and the Infinity Stones and stuff like this, which you can probably get from watching the movies and things like this, but you know, like the whole connection to Thanos and death, you'll probably need a bit of knowledge about, which you can read Thanos Rising for, to be fair, and obviously as well the entire Infinity Saga. But anyway, you also need a little bit of knowledge on Mephisto as a character, because Mephisto is like a big part of this at the moment, because they're in hell. There's knowledge of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and there's just a whole lot of knowledge in this that I think you'll need for this to make full sense and for you to fully enjoy it. So if you are brand new to Marvel Comics and you want to read about death, maybe not this one. If you aren't brand new and you know a fair bit amount about comics and stuff, maybe give this one a go. I'm only 3 issues in and I am really enjoying myself, but I'll have to wait and see what I think by the end of it. But I'm definitely thinking at the moment this is not going to be one for people who are brand new to comics in general. And now I've just finished that run and it was just alright in the end. There was a few funny moments, but in the end, I think if you're going to be dealing with death, being kidnapped by a massive, like, entity, and people basically stopping dying and all of this kind of thing, you need more than just Deadpool and Thanos to deal with it. You need more, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Avengers, everybody, because it affects everyone. And I think this would have been better as a big event that involved everybody. And also, to be honest, Deadpool and Thanos aren't really natural, like, teammates, enemies, or whatever. They're just kind of too diametrically opposed in a lot of ways. It was alright, don't get me wrong, this is getting a 3 stars, but it is not my absolute favourite. I wouldn't say I recommend it, especially to new people, because like I said, it deals with that past of Thanos and death, and also Deadpool and death. It also has Francis turn up for a little bit, so you need a little bit of knowledge on Francis. You also need a bit about Blackheart, who was ironically one of the suggestions people were coming up with for who Aubrey Plaza could be playing in Agatha all along. So you also need knowledge of that. You need knowledge of Mephisto. You need knowledge of eternity and generally the cosmic part of the universe. All of this kind of thing. So it needs a lot of knowledge to it. So if you are brand new to comics, definitely don't read this one. If you are kind of not up to date with Marvel Comics, but if you have a fair bit of knowledge about them, maybe give this a go. And I should also mention as well, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about Black Talon as a character, because they felt very sort of stereotyped in a lot of ways, which was not really fun. I don't know if anybody else feels like this. I've just had a quick flick through Goodreads. I haven't seen anybody else say that, but personally to me he felt a little bit stereotypy, which was bordering on problematic in my mind. So not my absolutely favourite thing in the world. I think actually because of the problematic elements I'm going to knock it down to a 2-star. It was not the worst thing I've read for this vlog, but it was not my absolute favourite either. So, but now I'm going to go on to reading something else, and I think I'm going to read something about Agatha now, because to be honest, Death wasn't really in this that much, and to be honest, Death isn't really in that many comics, so I think I'm going to go back to Agatha for a bit, and I think I'm going to go read Contest of Chaos now, I think. So I'm going to go do that. To read Contest of Chaos, I need to read the latest Scarlet Witch run, and she is now running a shop with Darcy, which is such a cool concept. I hope this carries on throughout the entire thing, but we shall see. And a woman has just come through saying, basically, I need help, and she's saying she knows everything is magic, because she's seen every Doctor Strange documentary in existence, and she's gone, I know you, by the way, you're the Scarlet Witch. I've seen you on those same shows, kicking Doctor Strange's ass. And I'm like, rude? My boy's a badass. But I guess because Scarlet Witch is the Scarlet Witch, and I mean he's the Sorcerer Supreme, I mean they're a little bit mismatched, but my boy's still a damn good fighter. And I just think, rude when people say they're going to kick his ass, because my boy's a good fighter. I really like conversations like this that Wanda is having with Agatha about her life and how, yes, she has power basically over all creation. Creation holds no locked doors, as Agatha puts it. And and she's asking how Wanda could possibly be happy in this tiny little hamlet running a shop and occasionally helping people magically. And I love seeing Wanda's discussion on this, because she's saying that people matter and helping people matters, and it's not a small place. People's struggles are just as big as hers and Agatha's and things like this. And I really love these types of conversations, because Wanda's stories are usually so massive and usually so focused on things like her altering reality and her dealing with the loss of her children and all of this kind of thing. So it's really nice to see her looking at the smaller stuff, I guess you'd say. So it's really nice to see her look at the so-called smaller stuff and be happy with it, and seeing her try to sort of make a life for herself outside of being an Avenger while still helping in any way she can. And I just really love these types of conversations, and I really wish we'd had more of these types of conversations really over Wanda's entire history, instead of it just focusing around what man she's dating and her sons. I really wish we got more conversations like this all the way through, because Wanda is such a fascinating character, and we do not get these types of conversations enough, anywhere near as much as we should. I've now moved into the actual contest of chaos, and it turns out what Agatha is doing is essentially building a new Darkhold, because in a previous Scarlet Witch run, Wanda has essentially made the Scarlet Witch into kind of her own soul in a way, and it's used to trap a demon called Chthon. So again, definitely probably not for people who are brand new to Marvel Comics, because you need to know about Agatha, you need to know about the fact that Agatha is now de-aged. I think that was in Midnight Suns, which I admittedly haven't read yet. Probably should have read that first, but there we go. I'm all over the place. I wanted to read Darkhold today. You also need to know about Scarlet Witch. You need to know about the fact that she has had all of this history with the Darkhold. You need to know about the Darkhold and all of the characters who are about to appear, because there are a lot of characters who are about to appear in this. So you need to know a fair amount about all of these types of people and generally the magic side of the Marvel Universe. But what I wanted to quickly say is that the first issue of this whole contest of chaos, where Agatha is trying to rebuild the Darkhold, involves Spider-Man and Logan, and they've just met each other in this weird magical thing that they've just been transported to, and Peter's going, how do I know it's actually you? And Logan has just growled at him, and Peter's just gone, right, no, I'd recognise that charm anywhere, it's definitely you. And I just love that, because I know that these two are not old friends, they're old teammates, but I do love the fact that you can just tell it's Logan just from him growling at you, because that's very much Logan being grumpy. And I just wanted to point that out, because obviously I'm still very much on a Logan high from Deadpool and Wolverine, so just wanted to quickly point that out and just sort of talk about it for a second. So each of these issues involves two heroes going up against each other and battling, and whoever wins, Agatha then takes for whatever reason. So we have seen Spider-Man and Wolverine, where Wolverine has won the fight, and now Peter's gone over to Jessica Jones to try and figure out what's going on. We've also seen Iron Man versus Storm, and now I've just read the Human Torch versus Ghost Rider. And now we're also going to see a whole load of others, including Spider-Gwen and White Fox, and Venom versus Deadpool. So, very intrigued. I am enjoying this so far. I do like seeing these characters kind of fight each other, and also try and figure out exactly why Agatha needs these specific people, and why she's pitting them against these other specific heroes. It's all very interesting, so definitely enjoying this so far. I would not say it's one for new people, though, because, again, you need knowledge of all of these characters, and also generally what's going on with them around that sort of time, and not exactly their backstories, but you do kind of need to know a few bits about what's going on in their current storylines, just for bits where they're mentioning what's going on in their lives at the time, things like this. So I would say you probably can't read this if you're brand new to comics, just because there is so much context involved. If you are not new to comics and you have read a fair amount, definitely give this a go, because so far this is really fun. It's the 31st of October, the final 2 episodes of Agatha All Along have come out, and I've just watched them, and oh my god, was that good. I mean, I knew it was going to be good anyway because Marvel never misses. I mean, I admittedly took a few watches of WandaVision's finale to fully, like, enjoy it because I had so many theories that I was certain were going to happen and then none of them did. So, in that sense, I was a little bit disappointed in the WandaVision finale initially, and then I've watched it a few more times and gone, no, actually, this is a really good finale. But anyway, besides the point, this was incredible, and I'm just going to start off and say I was right. I was absolutely right. Billy is controlling the road, or Billy created the road. There was no witch's road, but Billy basically, like, warped reality just like his mother and created the road. And I'm like, I called this weeks ago. I called this. I can't remember how long ago it was, but I certainly called this because you saw so many bits from Billy's room in the road, and you literally saw all of it in the road. So, like, you had the Fleetwood Mac poster, there was the same light. You also saw the chair that he sits in at his desk, which has the phases of the moon on, and obviously every single trial had the phases of the moon. You had the Ouija board, you had the Wizard of Oz figurines. There was a few other things that were shown throughout this episode to go, hey, look, he is controlling the road, or that's how he figured out he made the road, and all of this kind of thing. So I knew that was coming, and I was so happy. Like, I called it, and I'm so happy that theory was correct, because half the time my theories are not correct. I try and come up with the theories, and then my theories generally turn out wrong. But this time, I was right, and I'm so excited and so happy. And once again, it's proving, like, mother, like son, and obviously giving us that hint of this, like, extent of Billy's power, because obviously Billy is incredibly powerful as a character in the comics. I mean, he is literally known as the Demiurge. He is essentially, he has the powers, if he goes full Demiurge, to rewrite the laws of magic. You know, he is that powerful. He is potentially the next Sorcerer Supreme after Doctor Strange. He is extremely powerful, and obviously we saw in Multiverse of Madness his like image is depicted on the walls of Wundagore Mountain. So obviously he is going to be incredibly powerful, and we're seeing that now with the fact that he's managed to warp reality to create the Witch's Road. Like, I mean, this kid is going to be so powerful. I'm so excited about that. Joe Locke was incredible in the role. I definitely think they cast the right actor to play Billy. And then his costume, his super costume. Oh my god, I love it. I love it so much. It looks really comic accurate while also being, like, more, like, real life, I guess you could say. I really love that it looks like he's sort of magicked it together, but he's not quite sure what he's doing, but it looks superhero-y while still being a little bit emo, which I absolutely love. I love the cloak as well, because I hate the comic book cloak. I won't lie, the comic book cloak annoys me because in my mind the cloak looks like a torn bit of fabric, you know, and I hate it in the comics. But in the show it looks gorgeous, and I love the effect it has with the crown and everything else. I loved all of that. I loved when he put his hood up as well when he was leaving Westview, because that was so like his mother. And I love that they keep on doing these things that are clearly doing the like mother, like son. I love all of that. Rio, I should say as well. Oh, her as death. Her as death. I mean, Aubrey Plaza was born to play death. You know, like, Aubrey Plaza was born to play death. I also think at some point she should play an adult Wednesday Addams, because I think she would be incredible in that role as well. But her as death was incredible, and seeing her battle Agatha and all of the rest of it, that was absolutely brilliant. I loved all of that. I loved everything to do with that final trial and everything else. And then obviously as well, bringing Tommy to life, and they've now got to go and try and find him. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just so excited. But I loved everything to do with trying to find Tommy and everything else. I love that scene so much. And then Agatha. Oh, Agatha, that final episode, the whole bit with her son Nicky, I loved that so much. I loved seeing everything to do with that and seeing her like give birth to him and then raise him for 6 years and trying to keep him safe. I loved all of that so much, and the fact that it went into the origins of the Witches Road song as well, that it came from them and all of this kind of thing, and then seeing her cope with the loss of him because Rio took him age 6. I will say that I was expecting Rio to have reaped him and then Agatha to try and get like the Darkhold to try and get him back. I was fully expecting that to happen, but that didn't happen, so that was a theory that I was not correct about, but I'm perfectly fine with that, to be honest, because I really liked how this went and how you could see her slowly building on the Witch's Road and taking all of those witches' power, so she doesn't have to face him in death because obviously she feels guilty and all of this kind of thing. So that was really good. I love the origins of the Witch's Road and seeing Agatha try to survive this long, and then the whole bit with Rio reaping him was absolutely heartbreaking. I will say that was heartbreaking, and Catherine Hahn in that funeral scene, just give her all of the Emmys. Just give her all of the Emmys, all of the awards, just give them to Catherine Hahn because she nailed that scene so well. I absolutely love that scene. It was heartbreaking. It absolutely broke my heart, but it was done so well. I love that scene so much, and like I said, Catherine Hahn absolutely nailed that bit so well. I loved it. I will say though that I do wish that we had seen a little bit more of Agatha and Rio's relationship, because we didn't really see that, like them falling in love or anything else. Obviously, I think if maybe there had been another episode, like a 10th episode, we maybe would have had time to explore that a little bit more, but seeing as Agatha is still hanging around as a ghost, which is oh my god, she's as a ghost and she's comic accurate. But anyway, hopefully we'll see that maybe in a later project or something where we see maybe them falling in love and things like this. But I love that they did make it absolutely explicit that the two of them were together and they are a queer couple, or at least they were a queer couple. I really like that they explicitly said Agatha's ex in terms of Rio, all of this kind of thing. Loved all of that. And then the comic accuracy with the ghost. I mean, Agatha can be a ghost at times. Agatha is a ghost on the Witches Road in the James Robinson run, which I think is going to be the thing I read next, because it's all about the Witches Road. And while it is mainly about Wanda, Agatha is there as a crone, as a, like, ghost. So I think that's going to be my best option, because everything else I've got about Agatha, she's a young woman, and I kind of want to read something with her with the white hair and everything else, because that is her classic comic book look, is to her being the classic crone with the white hair, the purple outfit, everything else, and she's only recently become young again. So, oh my god. The fact they went there, they've made her the ghost and they've made her the crone with the white hair and the purple outfit. I love that so much. I love that they did that comic accurate look, which was absolutely fantastic. I love comic accuracy in my films and TV shows with Marvel. I love comic book accuracy so much, and I love that they've really been leaning into that in these later phases of the MCU. I am loving the comic accurate looks and everything else, and Agatha is no exception. I love that she's a ghost. I love that she's now going to go and help Billy find Tommy as well. I think the next time we see them is probably going to be in Vision Quest, because WandaVision, Agatha All Along, and Vision Quest are meant to be like a trilogy, as they always say. Jack Schaefer's said it. Catherine Hahn, I think, has said it. Paul Bettany has recently said it as well, and he's saying that they're going to start filming next year with that. And he said that it is the end of the trilogy that they've been making with this. And I'm fully of the belief that Vision is going to find Tommy. He's obviously also going to make his children, specifically Viv as well. I know he's going to be doing that. It's almost certainly that that's what they're going to do, because that would make a lot of sense, and let's just complicate the Maximoff family tree even further. But anyway, I do reckon that the next time we see Billy and Agatha is going to be in that show, because they're looking for Tommy and Vision finds Tommy and then they find Tommy, or maybe it will be in a Young Avengers thing. I don't know, but I do think we're going to see them very soon, either in Vision Quest or Young Avengers. Also, I should say as well that Agatha is usually the mentor of Scarlet Witch in the comics, but I love that they've changed it so she's now Billy's mentor instead. I think that is a really cool thing. I'm really excited to see him take up the name Wiccan, because he hasn't taken up the name yet, but I'm really excited to see him do that, and then maybe see if Eddie is actually Teddy, all of this kind of thing. But As in short, I absolutely loved this. It was incredible. I loved all of the details. I loved how it all came together. I loved that I was right about my theory, and I loved the comic accuracy of it. I loved how it broke my heart. I loved everything about this, and the only thing I wanted more of was Agatha and Rio's relationship. That was it. Everything else, absolutely chef's kiss, perfection, brilliant, loved it. And now for the final time, I'm going to go write a blog post about this. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about the comic book Easter eggs in the last 3 episodes, and then I'm going to read the James Robinson Witches Road Run. So let's get on and do it, because for the final time, it's Halloween night. Let's get witchy for the final time this year. I love this so much. I love this so much. It was so good. I've now finished my blog post, which was the comic book Easter eggs for the last 3 episodes, because I like to do those once every 3 episodes or so. And now I've decided to read House of Harkness instead of, or just before I read the James Robinson Scarlet Witch run, just because I haven't read House of Harkness yet, and this is the one that's been updating as Agatha has been coming out. And House of Harkness is a Infinity comic, which essentially means it's just an infinitely scrolling comic on Marvel Unlimited. I don't know if they're going to put it out like anywhere else or whatever, but if you have Marvel Unlimited, you can read this. And this is set in a different universe where essentially Wanda and Agatha and also Doctor Strange are all students at the school, the House of Harkness, which Agatha's presumably father is running, and it seems like it's going to be Wanda and Agatha maybe at loggerheads with each other or learning to like each other, this kind of thing. And so far I'm only a couple of like pages, I guess you could say, in, and I am quite enjoying myself. I am liking the artwork of this. I'm liking the setup of it. We haven't met Agatha yet, but I am leaning towards this may be a good one to start with if you are completely brand new to Marvel Comics, just because there isn't that huge amount of like history that you've got to try and go through, because this is set in a new universe, so it is setting things up in this universe, this kind of thing. And also I just want to point out, I love Doctor Strange's design here. He's called Mr. Strange because he's not Doctor Strange at this point because he's a student, but I am loving the design of him here and the design of everything as well. But I just wanted to point out Doctor Strange because he is also a sorcerer, and I haven't really mentioned him enough in this vlog, so I just wanted to quickly sort of shout him out in the middle of this as well, because I am a massive Doctor Strange fan, and I wouldn't be me if I did not mention him at least once when I'm talking about Marvel. This is definitely turning into an Agatha versus Wanda situation, where Agatha is basically the queen of the school. She's Regina George, Heather Chandler, that type of character, while Wanda is the new girl. She's very much like the Katie, the Veronica Sawyer, this kind of thing, and now they're at each other's throats essentially and trying to outdo each other magically, this kind of thing. And I definitely think this is actually a good one to read maybe if you just want a bit of Agatha versus Wanda without having a ton of backstory you need to catch up on or anything else, because it is very much straightforward. We're in a new school, they're all 16 or 17 years old, they're all students, they're trying to kill each other or trying to at least outdo each other. Agatha is trying to get Wanda kicked out of the school, whereas Wanda is just trying to stay here essentially and keep on top of things, and so it's a pretty good one to read in that sense. There are other characters being introduced like Doctor Strange, like Loki, like Voodoo, Druid, Nico as well. Nico's in this, which is really quite fun because I really like Nico. I'm hoping we're going to see Illyana at some point because I absolutely adore Illyana, maybe Billy as well, which would be very thematic at this point because obviously Billy in Agatha all along and everything else, but seeing as he's her son, maybe not, I don't know. Anyway, you have all of these other characters turning up in here, but they're more like side characters, and you get like a little bio saying this is their name, this is their age, this is the magic they do. And you don't really need to know anything else about them to really enjoy this story. I mean, if you are more into Marvel Comics and you've read a lot of comics like I have, then you can look at this and be like, oh yeah, that's that person, they do this in the main Marvel timeline. But if you are completely brand new, you can still read this and be like, I don't know who that is, but they sound quite interesting. And then you could maybe look them up in the main Marvel timeline later on if you want to, if you are quite interested in them, which I think is a really good thing. But overall, so far, this is really enjoyable, and I also really like that you can just jump straight into this one with no prior knowledge if you want to. I should also mention that I really like how Agatha and Wanda are drawn as well. I really love just the whole art style of this in general, but I do really love how Agatha and Wanda have been aged down and what they look like, and their whole character design I think is really cool, really fun, and I'm really enjoying it. I've now just finished all 10 issues of House of Harkness, and this is a really fun read. It's not finished, it's still updating, and I'm now really excited for the next one because it's left it on a bit of a plot twist cliffhanger, but I really enjoyed this. It's really quick, really fun. I read all like 10 issues in about 20 minutes. I think it was really quick. So if you are looking for a really quick, really speedy read that does not have any sort of backstory that you need to read, or like years of like back issues or anything else, this is a really good one to read, especially if you have Marvel Unlimited, because it is currently only on Marvel Unlimited, but it is well worth a read. You've got that kind of YA magic school feel, which is really good fun. You've also got a lot of like really fun characters who turn up in this. The magic is really fun, and Wanda and Agatha's relationship is really fun to watch sort of grow, or well, change, should I say, and watching them go up against each other, all of this kind of thing. It's just generally really good fun, and I'm giving this 4 stars at the moment because while it is a little bit quick for me, I still really enjoyed it, and I definitely think it is a really good one to read if you are completely brand new to Marvel Comics. And now I'm going to go on to read the James Robinson run, because it's all about the Witch's Road and Wanda going down the Witch's Road with Agatha, who is a ghost, which obviously fits in with that last episode of Agatha All Along. And I mean, what better time to read about the Witch's Road than now? So I'm going to go and reread that one, and obviously take you along with me until I've finished it and I can wrap up this vlog. As for whether this is a good one to read if you are brand new to Marvel Comics, I'd say probably not, just because there's a lot of context that you need to hear in terms of who Wanda is, what she has been through, as well as Agatha and their connection to each other. I'd also say it's a good idea to know why Agatha is dead at this point, because she is a ghost and she says Wanda killed her, and Wanda's like, no I didn't. So you do need context for that. I'd also say it helps to have just a little bit of knowledge about how magic works in the Marvel Universe, this kind of thing. But if you have that kind of knowledge, this is a really good one to read, especially if you are interested in the Witch's Road and things like this. I'm not there at the moment because I'm only on the 2nd issue so far, but it's a pretty good one to read if you want to know more about the Witch's Road, simply because it is the only one about the Witch's Road. The Witch's Road has not been seen since, basically. I think it's been shown once in like 3 panels in one Scarlet Witch comic, and that is it. So if you want the Witch's Road, this is definitely the run, but definitely have some context going into it though, because there's a lot of things that need explaining otherwise. This is a run that has a different artist with every single issue. It was done deliberately, so you can see a whole ton of different artwork throughout here. And while I'm not going to show you every single artist take, just because I know this vlog is going to be already very long and I do not want to add to my editing time or anything else, I just wanted to quickly point out this panel here, which is from issue 2, because I think it is absolutely gorgeous. I love how you've got like half of the face of the person who's talking and explaining what's going on, and then on the other side you've got what's been happening and things like this. I just think it is absolutely stunning, and I just wanted to quickly point it out. This run kind of goes in and out of the Witch's Road, so you end up on the Witch's Road in the first few issues, I think it is, if I remember rightly, and then you sort of end up going through across the world and going on different adventures and stuff like this that slowly kind of form a big storyline at the end that then lands Wanda back on the Witch's Road again. And what I will say is that I do wish we spent more time on the Witch's Road, because you have it in this 3rd volume quite a bit, and you obviously see bits like this. But they're saying that this is like a flashback to when things were more eventful on the Witch's Road, and they're being attacked by monsters and things like this. And I would have loved to have seen that more in full. I don't know if that's just because obviously I've been watching Agatha all along and we've been seeing all of the trials, and we've been on the Witch's Road for like 6 out of the 9 episodes, I think it was in the end. Yeah, it was 6 episodes we were on the Witch's Road, or what we thought was the Witch's Road. So I don't know if that's kind of colouring my opinion on this, but I do wish we did spend more time on the road in this. I also do wish we spent more time as well exploring more of Wanda's family, because there's a little bit where she is going to a therapist and she's trying to sort of figure out what to do with her family and pushing people away and this kind of thing, and that only lasts like an issue. So I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that, as well as her interacting with Pietro, because this ties in a little bit with Civil War 2. It's entirely explained within the storyline what that is. within the panels it's entirely explained what's going on with that and everything else. But I would have liked to have seen Wanda more standing up to her brother and saying, no, you're not going to basically control me all of this time. I'm not just going to jump when you say jump and things like this. I'm going to be my own person and things like this, and I would have liked a little bit more explanation in that and things like this. So there's a lot to like about this run, but I will say it does definitely have problematic elements to it, and I do wish in a lot of ways it had been longer and explored a lot more of various different bits, like the road, like Wanda talking about her family and how she views Billy and Tommy and her marriage to Vision and her relationship with Wonder Man, who is also going to be a new Marvel show in 14 months time, next December anyway, 2025, and things like this. So I would have liked to have seen more exploration of that. Like, don't get me wrong, the rest of these stories are quite fun, but the bits that are actually about Wanda herself, I would have liked more exploration on. I think that's what I'm getting at. I wanted more exploration from the series as a whole in terms of Wanda and also the Witch's Road itself. And now I have finished the James Robinson Scarlet Witch run, and this was pretty fun. There was definitely problematic elements, like I said, that hopefully are just a sign of the times, because I think this was written in about 2016, I think, if I remember rightly. It's been a while, and hopefully the writer has learned since then on the problematic elements of it. In terms of the stuff I wish it had explored more, I still definitely wish it had explored more of those, and then maybe later runs had built on that a little bit more, but there we go. Either way, if you do want something that features the Witch's Road, several characters from the Agatha All Along TV show, and explores more of Wanda's past and then also her relationship with Agatha, this is a pretty one to go for. It is not the absolute greatest comic in the world by any means. The artwork can be a little bit sort of iffy at points, but overall it is a pretty good run. It's only at 3 stars, but it is the closest you're going to get basically to the Agatha All Along TV show in a lot of ways. And that is going to be the end of this reading vlog. So out of everything I have read, I'm going to recommend the James Robinson run, if not just for the Witch's Road stuff. I'm also going to recommend as well, if I look through my Goodreads again, I'm also going to recommend the Scarlet Witch and the Contest of Chaos by Steve Orlando if you want more Agatha. I'm also going to recommend the Children's Crusade by Alan Heinberg, and obviously the rest of the Young Avengers stuff also by Alan Heinberg. If you want anything to do with Billy, that is the greatest place to start, and it is also just a really, really good run. I'm also going to recommend, I'm going to say, the Strange Academy by Scotty Young, because I am a Scotty Young fan through and through, and if you just want general magic in the Marvel Universe without masses and masses and masses and masses of pre-reading that you need to do, you can generally jump into this one quite well. So Scotty Young's Strange Academy. And as for the TV show itself, I highly recommend the TV show. Obviously I do. I have been a massive fan for the last 7 weeks as it has been airing. It has been so much fun to watch. I love the twists and turns, even if some of them were admittedly spoiled for me by Funko, but there we go. I have loved every single minute of this show. I really hope we get a second series, or we're going to see Agatha and Billy again, and also Jen. Actually, I'd love to see Jen maybe in like a Midnight Suns, or turning up at like Carmitage or something like this. I'd love to see her again, but I'd also love to see Billy and Agatha again, maybe in Young Avengers, or maybe Vision Quest, or their own show as well, because there is rumour of there being a Wiccan show coming as well, so we'll see on that front. But yeah, I have absolutely loved every single minute of reading these comics, watching the show, and making this vlog. And I think this vlog is now long enough, so I'm going to leave it here. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me what you thought of Agatha when you watched it. I'd love to know. Or if you don't have that much time, leave me a witchy emoji down below to let me know that you were here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics, which is filled with everything to do with Agatha all along, between comic book Easter eggs to explainers for the characters and everything in between. If you want to check that out and find out more about Agatha all along and the comics and everything else, all of that will be linked down below, as well as a link as well down below to my bookish Etsy store if you want to treat yourself to something bookish today. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But till next time everyone, bye!